is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, we are live in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1 on a loaded Monday. Christine Leahy is joining us on Monday. As it feels like football, it sounds like football. We had Hall of Fame stuff. We had Jimmy Jerry. We have Jay Cutler, who used to be our teammate, is now a Miami Dolphin teammate. So it felt like football to me, like a real transition. That's what it felt like to me. So I said this Friday. If I was the Miami Dolphins, I would have called Tony Romo and Jay Cutler, and I would have offered Tony Romo and Jay Cutler my starting job. They are starting quarterbacks. And in this instance, Adam Gase, who's Miami's coach, has worked with Jay Cutler. And in fact, they not only worked together, it was the best year Jay Cutler ever had. And if you've never played football, you may not understand about what I'm going to say, but you ever heard of Rosetta Stone, where you learn a language? You've heard of Rosetta Stone, right? You're going to go to Italy in 2 months, and you buy Rosetta Stone, and you try to learn at least sidewalk Italian so you can say, hi, thank you, please. In the NFL, being a quarterback is learning a language. Every coach has a different language they use for football. They're semi-similar, but not all the same. Adam Gase and Jay Cutler speak the same language. It's plug and play. It's August 7th. He knows the language, can walk in and make stuff happen. Too many of you comparing this and comparing that. I also want to say Adam Gase decided to choose a quarterback who didn't wear a Fidel Castro T-shirt ever. Oh, Colin, that doesn't matter. Oh, really? Remember when Ozzie Guillen was the manager of the Marlins? I'm going to read you an article written by a fine baseball writer. There aren't a lot of rules on what you can and cannot do in Miami, which is why the Marlins have seemed like a perfect spot for Ozzie Guillen. Yet, if there's a line to cross, Guillen will somehow find it. There is one thing you don't say in Miami. It's I love Fidel Castro. Ozzie Guillen said it and had to apologize. Ozzie Guillen had a job and had to apologize. What do you think it would be like if you didn't have a job and were seeking one in Miami and said it? You're not going to get that job. The national American sports media sort of glossed over this. Ozzie Guillen was at the time a wildly popular manager in Miami. Employed, paid millions. Said, Castro's not the worst thing in the world. Had to apologize to the city. Kaepernick's unemployed. It's a marginal quarterback. Has no relationship with Adam Gase. Cutler does. And he wore a Fidel Castro shirt and spoke highly of him. You don't think it matters a little? You don't think it matters a little that Kaepernick's girlfriend, who is a somewhat public figure, last week called the Baltimore Ravens owner a slave owner? You do realize when you looked at her tweet, she was essentially saying all NFL owners are. Folks, the White House just fired their communications director, meaning like Ozzie Guillen, he had a job and said something, and they fired him embarrassingly quickly. If you don't have a job and are seeking one, you cannot be marginally offensive to somebody who owns a team and can employ you. There's freedom of speech and there's freedom of repercussions. Like the media is just not telling you the truth here. They're saying Kaepernick's completion percentage and Kaepernick what? Cutler has a relationship with Adam Gase. In fact, it was really good. Nobody's insinuating Jay Cutler is Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. I'm not saying Kaepernick's not capable of being a quarterback. But if you don't think the Castro thing in Miami is something, you're not paying attention. And if you don't think his girlfriend taking a shot at the owner, racial overtones is something, you're not being honest. Cutler was the choice, the smart choice, and for Miami and Adam Gase, the only choice, as long as Tony Romo didn't pick up the phone. Jay Cutler is supposed to call us later today. Let me shift gears to Jerry and Jimmy. Jerry Jones, owner of the Cowboys, this weekend inducted into the Hall of Fame. And on the same weekend that LeBron James posted a workout on Instagram and said, "This is the price of being great. They hate you while you're winning, but love it when you break." So let's go back to Jimmy and Jerry, because I think these two have a lot in common. Jimmy and Jerry were amazing. And then Jimmy and Jerry suddenly were not. Egos got involved. And Jerry Jones was funny about it this weekend.
After Jimmy screwed up and we parted ways, I come home, and of course, Jean has been watching the news. After I laid there a minute, she just looks over and said, "You can't stand it, can you? You just absolutely, when it gets going, you just got to get in it and mess it up."
Listen, I'm watching Jimmy and Jerry this weekend, and it was a wonderful thing, and then it ended. And I'm watching this Cleveland situation right now, Kyrie and LeBron, and it's going to end really soon. And why are we surprised? You do get that Jerry and Jimmy ended poorly. And so did Shaq and Kobe. And Favre and the Packers. And Manny and the Red Sox. And Montana and the Niners. And Boston's Big Three. And LeBron and Wade. And Mac Brown in Texas. And Pete Carroll in USC. And Peyton and the Colts. And Woody Hayes in Ohio State. You realize every guy's got a pickup line, but can never figure how to break up. You do realize as a country, we're great at getting into wars, and we can never get out of them. Harbaugh and the 49ers, Phil Jackson and the Lakers, Bobby Knight in Indiana, Charlie Sheen and 2.5 Men. Men, legends, egos. They virtually always end poorly. Because when relationships begin like Bobby Knight in Indiana, like Pete Carroll in USC, like Peyton and the Colts, like Favre and the Packers, like Jimmy and Jerry, like Phil and the Lakers, when those relationships begin, it's all about us. And then they get rich and famous, and then it becomes all about me. And they break up. And it just happens over and over. So enjoy the moment. LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love from day one had chemistry issues, but it was fun, and they got a title. It's the Hollywood marriage syndrome. You get married for us, and you break up eventually because it becomes about me. By the way, Kyrie and LeBron, 3 years, 3 finals, and a title. That's pretty good. If you were a Cleveland sports fan the day LeBron left and went to Miami, if I'd have told you that day he'd come back, you'd go to 3 straight finals and win a title, you'd have signed up for it. All you do when smart, driven men get together, and there are championship possibilities and aspirations, you just hold it together as long as you can. The Big Three in Boston got 1 title. LeBron and Wade got 2. Shaq and Kobe got 3. LeBron and Kyrie got 1. Success. May win 1, may win 2, may win 3. But this is how it ends in Hollywood. And this is how it ends in sports when legends get together. It goes from us to me to over. Kyrie and LeBron's done. May happen at the All-Star break, may happen in December. It'll happen when Cleveland finally gets the offer they want. And Jimmy and Jerry, is it a sad ending? No, it's an inevitable ending. That's the way it works with guys. Success, money, egos, it's over. Good to have you on a Monday. A lot of stuff today. Mark Schlereth will make an appearance on this show. Our new Fox NFL analyst, 3 rings. Great to have him on. Tom Brady won't talk about his concussions or his physical being, and I've got some thoughts on that. I saw something, Christine, this weekend that it was honestly, I don't know. I mean, I've gone to doctors, and I know how I feel sometimes, but I don't know much really about medicine, like at all. I've had a friend who's a doctor. I've had, my wife has had babies, so I've been to hospitals. But I saw something this weekend medically that I just started laughing. And it's not necessarily something that should be laughed at, but it shows you often how confusing, perplexing, and how little we know about our health. And we have talked a lot about football lately and people's health, and Tom Brady doesn't want to talk about it, and that is coming up. So I'm going to give you a stat, and I think it's the most amazing thing I've ever heard. It surprised me. I've been watching this Netflix show called What the Health, and I'm surprised I'm even alive. Seriously, I can't believe I'm alive today after watching the Netflix show called What the Health. There is a study that was done. A woman at Brigham Young University, a doctor, took 148 different studies of more than 300,000 people. This is a massive study. And they determined through a series of studies, 148, that loneliness and social isolation is a greater health problem significantly in the United States, greater than obesity. Now, I want you to think about that. Basically, you could drink Pepsi through an IV. You could deep fry your bacon every morning. But if you play a game of solitaire in your kitchen, it's the guillotine. Think about that. That you could literally go to that restaurant that has the bloomin' onion. What is it, Outback?
Yes.
That is 1,900 calories, 155 grams of fat. Now, Christine, that's an appetizer. That's not the meal. You could eat that on a daily basis, and you'd be fine. But if you drove by yourself to Palm Springs, death sentence. That being lonely over time is worse for you significantly than a crappy diet. Now, just think about that, right? You never thought that before. I didn't think that before. I don't think people want to be alone, but I can drink Pepsi all day, good. Drive a car by myself around the country, bad. So Tom Brady this weekend said, I don't really want to talk about my concussions. It's like my medical history, and like it happened last year, and it's like private, and I don't think it's any of your business. And I got to be honest, I'm okay with players not discussing medical issues because I don't think they know what the hell they're talking about. I mean, I live in a country now where actors are constantly talking about global warming. Not a meteorologist, not a scientist, a guy who's a pirate or a diamond thief or a captain of a ship, depending on the script he has. And he's lecturing me on global warming. You know, it's really possible that Bill Belichick and his do your job mantra would rather not anybody talk about medical stuff except doctors and trainers. Here's Belichick.
I'm a football coach. I'm not a doctor. The medical staff is the medical staff. I coach the team. Medical people handle the injuries. They don't call plays. I don't do surgery. We have a great deal there. Works out good.
Football players are risk takers. Listen, man, if you get pushed out of a plane, I feel bad. If you jump out of a plane and things don't go right, you knew the risk. Smoking cigarettes, playing football, jumping out of planes. We were talking about this last week. I know football players. They like tackling, even in practice. They complain when they don't tackle. They like hitting people. I heard Andrew Luck say last year, the game hasn't really started until he's gotten popped. So I don't know if I really want football players talking about health, even their own. It's quite possible they don't know what they're talking about, and it's their health, and they know the risks. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
As you mentioned, the Dolphins signed Jay Cutler over the weekend, so that kind of ends the debate about what they would do to replace Ryan Tannehill while he is recovering from his injured knee. Now, some of the other names that they considered are coming out, and Tim Tebow and Kyle Orton are on that list. Colin Kaepernick is 2, for what it's worth. I don't know if that was more of, oh yeah, we considered
Tim Tebow is on that
list. Yeah, Tim Tebow. So if you look at those names, and considering one of them is currently a minor league baseball player, it was clear that Jay Cutler was the right choice.
It seems like to me. And I really do think this is important. I mean, I can't speak for you necessarily, but in my career, if you know somebody someplace, it's usually an advantage. And he literally had Adam Gase as a coach.
Yeah.
And they were not only a coach, they were really good together. So, like, to me, that's just an overwhelming advantage for Jay Cutler.
Absolutely. You always kind of get a better job when you know someone at the organization.
Right.
But taking all those things into consideration, maybe that's why this makes sense. So only 2 projected week 1 starters not operating on rookie deals will make less than Cutler this year. So the Dolphins are getting a huge bargain with how much they're going to pay him, which is $10 million of a base salary plus incentives.
Yeah.
So they still got a bargain for him, even though he was probably the best choice available. Yes. Which tells me Jay Cutler really wanted to play football.
And, you know, he came on this show and said it was over. But I heard the story one time. I'm comfortable saying this because I think it's been published that Troy Aikman had been a broadcaster for 3 full years and was already really good. And he got a call and Aikman thought about it. Well, Jay Cutler's never done it. And, you know, maybe Jay's sitting there thinking, do I want to do it? Am I going to be good? It's harder than I thought. Oh, my God, there's $10 million. Like I said this Friday on the show. If I was Jay Cutler, I would have taken the job. And he's our partner. He puts us in a little bit of a bind. And I saw people this weekend saying, "Oh my God, Jay Cutler's selfish." And I'm like, it's just,
he wasn't really getting calls from other teams, and maybe he thought, okay, well, I don't have a job, so I'll take the one with Fox. But now he did get a call, and so he wants to go back to football. But it probably was a tough decision, too, because he's thinking, is that Fox job still going to be available down the road? Can I still do this?
Also, Christine, we put him in a booth with somebody else. It was a 3-man booth.
Right.
So my guess was our executives thought, like, this could happen. Like, Tony Romo leaves, CBS in big trouble.
Well, that's what I was thinking, too. So, okay, now that Jay Cutler has already done this, is Romo going to do it, too?
Yeah, because Romo, to me, I would choose number 1 if I was Miami. Here's what my guess is that CBS is paying Romo a lot of money, and so it's going to have to be like the cowboy job to leave. Like, Miami would not be good enough because he doesn't know Adam Gase. He doesn't know the language.
Yeah. He'll wait until if Dak gets hurt. And finally, Chuck Pagano was talking about having Andrew Luck back at practice, not participating, but just on the sidelines, kind of as an extra set of eyes on everything. And reporters were asking him, is this something we should look into? And he said, no, I wouldn't read much into it at all if I was you. So he was kind of insinuating maybe he's not going to be back for quite a while.
My intel, and I've been on this for 2 weeks now, is that they're not concerned long-term, but Chris Ballard, the GM, because he just got that job, he's safe. Like, he's not under the gun. Chris Ballard feels that he would rather not play him and just roll the dice beyond than take any risk.
Yeah, and you and I have agreed on that. If you're not going to win, why not just take your time, let Andrew Luck recover, get 100%, and then play him maybe next year?
Not many of these great franchise quarterbacks fall into your lap. Andrew Luck did. Don't screw it up. Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Don't waste time pricing flights and hotels at the same old sites. Go to Upside.com, code HERD. Minimum purchase required. Upside.com, code HERD. He's our friend. He is now a Fox NFL analyst. He has 3 Super Bowl rings. Lives in Denver. Now more in L.A. It's Mark Schlereth. Look at Mark. So we were just talking about intel.
Yes. Colin, good to be with you, by the way.
Good to be with you, Mark.
Thank you.
So I was at USC practice this weekend, and the Denver Broncos scout was there.
Really?
And he wouldn't give me any intel on what I really cared about. He was talking about college stuff. But somebody I trust told me about 4 days ago that the Broncos quarterback situation is really, really in dire straits, and that Paxton Lynch is not picking stuff up. Right. You have been, I've been told, to Bronco camp every day.
Yes. Yeah.
What's the story?
Well, here's the thing. It's really interesting because the college game, as you know, is so incredibly different. I mean, the field is different. The hash marks are different. And the game is different.
Right.
And so you're looking at young quarterbacks, and you're asking these young quarterbacks who play in a spread system, come on, they look to the sideline, and there's a card. And it's a fire truck and a rooster and, a bus. And you're like, hey, run fire truck, rooster, bus on 2, right? You don't call plays in the huddle. The coaches tell you who to throw it to. You're in this spread up-tempo offense. So the defenses that you face are basically stuck in zone the whole time, and nothing changes. And so they don't have a skill set to get to the next level and produce. And so it's really interesting because you're asking a quarterback like a Paxton Lynch to come in there who's never dropped from underneath center, who's in the shotgun, who all of a sudden has to know route combinations, route progressions. Oh, by the way, I've got to know protections. I've got to identify the mic. I've got to re-identify the mic and change it if I see a blitz coming. I've got to know all these things on the offensive side of the ball. And oh, by the way, now I got to study the defense too. So while I'm dropping back a 3, a 5, a 7-step drop, I've got to read the defense. Where's the rotations of the safeties? What's the defense? Because you don't throw based on guys who are wide open.
That's college.
Right. You don't throw. It's not an individual thing like I'm a sight thrower. I see that guy open. I'm going to throw it to him. You throw the ball based on the coverage. So you're like, hey, man, first read's covered. I know they're in this coverage, so I know where to go with the football. I know from understanding the concept of coverage, I know who the open guy should be.
So these college guys are overwhelmed.
Completely overwhelmed, especially in these offenses. And the issue that we get into, we start talking about, well, Russell Wilson did it. Well, Russell Wilson played in a pro-style system in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and at Z State.
Right. And he was a quarterback. He was groomed as a quarterback who happens to be an exceptional athlete. The guy that's ruined it for everybody is Dak Prescott. Because Dak Prescott came in, he has got this old soul, and he just transitioned automatically. Oh, by the way, he's got the best offensive line in football and a great running game. That helps quite a bit.
Okay, let's move to the Jay Cutler signing. It seemed obvious to me. There's a lot of Kaepernick fans, but I said it Friday on the show when Tannehill went down right before our show. I'm like, go call Jay Cutler.
Sure.
Obvious, right?
Totally obvious. I mean, he played for Adam Gase in Chicago, had his best season in Chicago. I mean, he was 3,600 yards. He completed almost 65% of his passes, 21 TDs, eliminated interceptions, only had 11 interceptions, which for Jay Cutler, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
And they spoke the same language. So when you're going out there and you're going, okay, wait a minute. Do I want to hire Colin Kaepernick and take 11 guys who have been going through the preseason OTAs and this preseason football camp
and
that we've been
and
completely change the whole offense and the whole language? Or do I want to bring a guy in that speaks my language, who's had success in this offense? I mean, it's an absolute no-brainer.
It's remarkable to me. It really shows how many NFL reporters and football reporters in the country. Like, I quarterbacked in high school. I was awful. But I played the game. So I know that quarterback is a language. The idea that you would bring in Cutler, who can day one speak the language, or you have to go Rosetta Stone on August 7th and bring in a completely different language.
Right. Yeah.
Like, do these guys who cover football, do they play? Football is a language.
Right.
You know the comedy writer Larry David?
Yeah.
So he did Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Right.
So Larry David's a funny guy. And one day we were going to dinner as a bunch of people, and he was in the restaurant. He had listened to the show, and he came over, and he said to me, straight-faced, he goes, I think I could be the Jets' offensive coordinator. And I said, do you speak Italian? Well, I said, you do get that football starts with a language. It would take you 2 years to understand the language of football. Because, like, fans watch it. So to your point, Cutler's the E. There's no language barrier. There's no audible barrier.
Sure.
Now, what about Colin Kaepernick? There's people that say the word, I guess this is a media buzzword, blackballed.
Right. Like, do you really believe that all the owners have nothing better to do than to get on a conference call with 32 owners and say, let's not hire him? Here's the deal, man. You are always looked at like, we'll put up with whatever noise happens to be around you, regardless of what that noise might be, if we think you're legitimate. Like, if you can play, you're going to get an opportunity to play. If we think that the noise outweighs the value or your ability, then guess what? You're not going to get a job. That's the way the people believe, and certainly the social, what he stands for and the social injustice in this country, there's no question that it exists. And good for him for standing up for it, because guess what? I remember Michael Jordan giving $2 million, and it was nothing more than a 6-second blurb on every media outlet there was, and then we moved on. This has created a buzz, and we have talked about it now for what? The better part of a year, right? So,
he's created dialogue. He's created discussion.
Absolutely. And so that has been good for the cause. And I'm 100% for that. And I really like Colin Kaepernick. I like him as a guy. And I've spent time with him. Bottom line is, do I think he can play in a traditional offense? And the answer is no, I don't.
I didn't think Tebow could play in one.
Well, my thing is, like, if you think that the only reason that Colin Kaepernick is being quote unquote blackballed by the NFL because of his social stance, then you happen to also think that Tebow is being blackballed by the NFL because he's a Christian. And I've got a bunch of tinfoil at my house back in Denver, and I'll make a hat for you, because that's not how it works. It's done. If they perceive you to have the requisite skill set to play quarterback in this league, guess what you're going to get an opportunity to do? Play quarterback in a traditional style. That style of offense, listen, RG3 had great success. How come he didn't have a job? RG3 doesn't have a job because that success in that style of offense, where Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan amalgamated two offenses together, this Baylor system along with the West Coast system, and they gave him 8-10 completions a game in the Baylor system. And when people started defending it, guess what? It's like the dodo bird, man. It went extinct. Like, you can't sustain that style of offense and put your quarterback in harm's way, because that quarterback won't survive. And that's where we are right now.
Listen, when you think of Cap, when I think of Kaepernick, I think of him running. When I think of Brady, I think of him throwing. When I think of Aaron Rodgers, I think of him throwing. When I think of Cap, I think of him running. Same with Vic and RG3.
Right.
So in the end, that ideology, when I think of Johnny Manziel, I think of him running.
It's unsustainable, Colin.
It's not. And by the way, the NFL always takes chances on things. The wildcat, the run and shoot. But every 8 to 10 years, they go through an ideology change or shift.
Right.
The running quarterback thing, everybody's now like, yeah, you got to go. But even, by the way, Carolina coaches are all over Cam.
Right.
Stop running.
Right. And they were designing 10, 11 plays a game where he'd run the ball. Now they're like, yeah, that's not sustainable. We can't do that. Think of you bring up the wildcat. Everybody in Denver, we had the wild horses, the Colts, the wild, stallions, and everybody did it. The Falcons, the wild hawks,
for a year and a half,
right? And then guess what? They're like, yeah, this is gimmicky, and it doesn't work, and defense have figured it out. And listen, every time as a quarterback, every time you do this, you put the ball in the stomach of the running back, and you look at the line of scrimmage, right? You know what you are? You're a runner. You're eligible to be hit. And listen, I'm not trying to be malicious, but if I was a defensive coordinator, defensive player, I don't care if you hand that ball off or not. You're going to get a mouthful of Rydell, and I'm going to try and knock you out of the game.
Of course.
And that's the way this league operates.
That's why LT
and that's
and
why
Ray,
it's unsustainable.
Yes, and again, I'll say it again. The view of Kaepernick now is runner over thrower, and the window to do that, which was about 3 years, is closing. Russell Wilson now, 65% completions. Cam, coaches complaining about it. Kaepernick's got a lot of things that aren't working in his favor. That is one of them. That window, that ideological run window, is closing. All right, so Tom Brady comes out and says, I don't really want to talk about concussions. I don't really think it's any of your business. And I got to be honest with you, Mark, I'm okay with him saying that.
Absolutely. I mean, it is none of our business. And whether you have one or not, that's the way it is. And, it's really interesting, this whole concussion talk, because I myself, there wasn't a game that I played in where I didn't either see stars or knock myself unconscious for a second. Every game I ever played in. That's the way it is. And guys are going to protect their careers. Guys are going to protect their careers, and guys are going to go out there and play regardless. This is why I've always been a big proponent. When I hear the NFL talk about safety being the number one priority of its league, of its players, I laugh. I go, because if it truly was, then there would be fully guaranteed contracts. How many times have you seen anybody self-report a concussion and sit out? One time in the history of this league that I can think of, Ben Roethlisberger. Why? Because I call it the 80-20 rule. 80% of the guys make 20% of the money. 20% of the guys make 80% of the money. When you're in that 20%, Ben Roethlisberger, when you're a franchise guy, you can afford to do it. Your job's going to be safe. The rest of us, doesn't work that way. So guys are gonna protect their turf. Nobody wants to get Wally pipped, right?
Right.
Nobody wants to walk out of the game, even if you are concussed, because you know that you're on a week-to-week, year-to-year contract. And so if you truly, as an NFL, want to preach safety, then make every contract fully guaranteed. So if I sign one and I get knocked out in the first week of the season and I need to sit 3 weeks, I know that I'm still going to get paid regardless for the next 3 years, so that you as an organization have got a vested interest in getting me back healthy on the football field, as opposed to, we'll just cut him. I mean, $3 million or $4 million for, and I know it's a lot of money, and people have a tough time with this, but I could go tip over the owner's couch and $8 million will fall out of the damn thing, right? I was wondering where I put that.
Right.
It's the way it is. So if you really want to protect our players, if you're really about safety, then guaranteed contracts should be the first thing on the table that you negotiate.
Mark, I said this, Goulet, Christine was here, John, this was my big thing last week. I think football should be played, but for a shorter period. If you had a universal law, which was you can't hit until 15, and then you guaranteed money, meaning players leave by the end of their second contract 29, the window shrinks from now 11 to 34, 15 to 29, and that's 8 years less of hitting. And CTE with increased awareness of equipment, it's not just playing football. Let's just shrink 4 years early brain developing, 4 years later guaranteed. I think players eventually, like in the NBA or baseball, guys can leave early because they got the money. If you guaranteed money, guys would, and I don't think it's the worst thing, Mark, because owners would say, hey, my league's cheaper. I don't have to pay a veteran a third contract like Schlereth. I can pay that Colorado State lineman, the rookie. I think the owners don't see it yet, but guaranteed money gets guys out of the league earlier.
Yeah, well, you're probably right. I haven't thought about it, but you're probably right. Here's the other thing, and I believe this. If you play this game, and I don't mean to scare people, but if you play this game at almost any level, and you do enough hitting, you're going to do brain damage.
Yeah.
But what we haven't looked at is lifestyle. We look at CTE after that player is deceased, and we look at that brain and say, yeah, there's brain damage. I guarantee you, anybody who's played the game, myself included, has brain damage. I believe there's enough elasticity and connectivity in your brain to overcome some of those things if your lifestyle is right. But what we don't look at is, hey, man, my identity never came from being a football player. My identity came from being a husband and a father. That's where I get my identity. That's what's important to me. Football's what I did, and I loved it. And it was the lifeblood that coursed through my veins. I loved it, but it wasn't my identity. It's what I did for a living. And I enjoyed the heck out of it, man. And so I think that most guys, or a lot of people, and this is not just football players, this is people in general, man, they identify with what they do for a living. Well, at some point, that's going to come to an end. And when it comes to an end, how do you deal with it? Guys slip into depression. Guys turn to alcohol. Guys turn to drug abuse. Guys, the guys don't have a purpose in their life. They don't have anything to do. And if that's the case, I think that just exacerbates whatever brain damage you have. And I think there's a lot that goes into that we don't study. We just look at brains at the end of people's lives and go, oh, that guy had brain damage. Well, like I said, I think you can overcome those things. And I think you have enough connectivity in your brain to overcome some of the issues that you do to it during playing football. I guarantee you this, man. I have learned more life lessons, and I am a better human being for having played football.
I'm actually a better human being for having been around it. Like this weekend, I was around football all weekend. The relationships I have. I took my stepson to a practice. The time we had together. Like you're either into it or not, and if you're not, it's cool. But if you are, it's awesome.
Dude, I was at the Hall of Fame this week, and we celebrated Terrell Davis, man. It was phenomenal to be back with my teammates and be back with my coaches.
You laughed all weekend long.
It was just great telling stories, and oftentimes the stories come back to, when I got knocked out in that one game, and I mean, they're funny to us, but 99.9% of the guys would do it all over again. The only reason there was a lawsuit is because the NFL lied to its players forever.
Yep.
That's why.
Mark Schlereth, he's now at Fox. Damn glad to have him. It's the Herd. By the way, I don't know if you're like this, But sometimes I won't know what a word means, and so I'll just go Google it and look it up. And I'll have a feeling I know what the word means, but I won't be sure. So if I'm like reading an article and it's in The Economist or The Atlantic or some heady magazine, I'll be like, I'm not exactly sure what that means. And I'll just look it up.
That's why it's really great to have a Kindle and you can press the word and it gives you a definition right there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I should try that. I just figured out Netflix. That sounds like a lot of work for me.
No, you just right on your iPad. You can download it.
So blackballed. So, like, you hear the word blackballed. You're like, well, so I just went and looked up because everybody says Kaepernick is blackballed from the league. Okay, so let's just get the definition of the word down. To reject somebody by means of a secret ballot. So, the American sports media believes the owners have a secret ballot with Kaepernick. I'm going to go with no on that. And I'm also going to go with no that when Charlie Sheen, 2.5 Men, got into his situation, that Hollywood executives didn't have a secret ballot, and that Keith Olbermann, one of the smartest political pundits in the country this last election, did not get a job, and it was not a secret ballot. Like, a lot of times, here's the way the world works. It's very corporate. When I look at the America I live in, we are much more corporate today than 25 years ago. It used to be you could have a local coffee shop next to a local bookstore, and now it's Starbucks next to Pete's, next to Amazon or something. Like the little bookstore is gone. And those neighborhoods don't really exist as much. It's hard to be vibrant. You got a lot of corporatization. And corporations are very fearful of little messes, little things, discomfort. That's why Charlie Sheen, 2.5 Men, despite being able to pull a rating, people just didn't want to get involved in that Charlie Sheen thing. And why Keith Olbermann, a super smart guy and political pundit, been fired several times. We don't want to get involved in the Keith Olbermann thing. And Colin Kaepernick, his girlfriend called NFL owners slave owners. And Kaepernick wore socks where policemen were portrayed as pigs. And he wore a Castro T-shirt. And he took a knee in a stadium. And he once called cops modern-day slave catchers. And you think maybe some owners maybe don't want to get involved in that Kaepernick situation. It's called the corporatization of America. Is that big corporations, and is there a bigger one right now? Facebook, Amazon, the NFL. Kaepernick's got a lot of things working. And I don't think he's a pocket passer anyway. But like, this is when you use the word blackballed, that's like secret ballot stuff. I don't think you need a secret ballot to know, yeah, in this big corporate world, we're going to stay away from that thing or that situation or that difficulty or that controversy. Like, blackballed is a great buzzword for the media. It's not it's not an illegal conspiracy or an illegal corporation. Collusion is an illegal corporation or conspiracy, especially in order to cheat or deceive others. It's secret. This is not collusion. It is not blackball. Like, you're basically telling me there's a secret ballot among NFL owners? I just don't buy into that. And I'm absolutely sure there's not a secret ballot because you wouldn't. I tell friends this all the time. Why are you emailing anybody? And why are you texting anybody? Call quickly and hang up. If you have something secret to say, I don't even text it.
Don't you think it's possible, though, that some of the owners are talking, like when they see each other or calling each other and discussing, yeah, it's kind of hard to do this?
Okay, that's a great point. So in Hollywood, during the Charlie Sheen thing, do I believe Les Moonves at CBS had lunch with NBC talent coordinator? Yes, because they talk all the time. And that person goes, oh, sorry about the Charlie Sheen thing. And CBS would go, yeah, you want to take him off our hands? Hey, no thank. Yes, people talk. It's just like on Wall Street, people talk. Now, there's insider trading, which is buy this stock and there's having a 3 martini lunch and going, God, I love this company. It's great. and then you order another martini. You're not going to stop people from talking in the world. And yes, to your point, do I think NFL owners talk? Yeah, they're probably at the same country clubs. But like blackball is secret ballot and collusion is secret society and cheating it. Like in corporate America today, you and I work for a huge corporation. I mean, this is the way the world works. A lot of times things happen. There's lawyers. There's let's stay out of it. Let's do this. Let's not get involved. You know, I just see words sometimes used by the media, and I'm like, I'm not using that word. That's not what that, and I said this about the Heisman Trophy and awards. Like, we don't look at words. We assume they mean something. What do they actually mean? I know it seems like a little thing, but collusion and blackballed, like that's where you get collusion is illegal in professional sports. It is illegal. Guys talking is not women talking. That's not illegal. That's communication. All right, hour 2 is coming up. We go to Cowboys camp. Jay Cutler's supposed to join us. I'm crossing my fingers. He's got to land in Miami soon. It's The Herd. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Christine Leahy is joining me. We're going to go to Dallas Cowboy camp in about 3 minutes. Jay Cutler is going to be joining us, I'm told, in about 1 hour. He's going to sign his contract. Christine with Miami Dolphins. He's flown there. I'm actually very happy for Jay. Adam Gase knew him. I mean, this is why the movie business has a lot of unoriginal movies. You go back to what you know. It's why people hire who they know. It's why you have good old boy clubs, is that people tend... Look in the NFL. Look at the coaches. They all hire who they know. Adam Gase knew Jay Cutler, and that's the world we live in right now. I've worked in TV for a long time. Do you know how often the people in TV hire who they know? That's the reality of business, and Jay Cutler and Adam Gase have some history. So they hire Jay Cutler, and I don't blame him. I said it Friday, even as a Fox teammate, if I was Jay Cutler, I'd take the phone call and I'd take the offer. I still think Jay Cutler's got a couple of years to start. I think there's limitations to him. Sometimes I don't like his body language. He throws too many picks, but he's a pocket thrower. Gase and him know the language, and football at the quarterback position is all about knowing the language, and so it works out. I also want to touch on this before I go to Cowboy camp, is that a lot of the great devices we have in the world have been created by guys. I mean, Silicon Valley is like 95% guys, and they're smart guys. But eventually rock bands break up. It's like women can get along with each other longer than men or something. You ever notice that? Like rock bands break up. I don't know. It seems to me that women can get along longer.
Destiny's Child.
Well, I guess they had egos. Like there's something about... When you put big talented people together, Shaq and Kobe, Favre and the Packers, it almost never ends well. And Jimmy and Jerry is very much like Shaq and Kobe, and Kyrie and LeBron. I just read 2 stories this morning. Kyrie and LeBron are done. It may not happen now. It may happen at the trading deadline. It is not going to work. And you know what? I'm okay with it. Kyrie's going to go somewhere, hopefully a team like Boston or Miami, and he's going to have a great career. And LeBron's going to go to the Lakers or somewhere and have a great career. Jimmy and Jerry gave us 3-4 unbelievable years of American sports. And pigs get fed and hogs get slaughtered, and I'm not greedy. Shaq and Kobe was amazing. But I've come to the conclusion when it comes to big, powerful men, alpha males, they join forces to create an us, and then it becomes a me, and then they break up. I just enjoy the ride. I enjoyed Shaq and Kobe. I enjoyed Jimmy and Jerry, and I think time heals most wounds. Here's Jerry this weekend getting into the Hall of Fame.
I wanted someone I knew. I wanted someone I knew well. I wanted someone that could get it done to be our coach. I wanted Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy, it was a great decision. You were a great teammate. You were a great partner. To the contrary of popular belief, we worked so well together for 5 years and restored the Cowboys' credibility with our fans. We were back-to-back. We were driven. We had thick skin. We took all the criticism they could dish out. I thank you.
Hey, you know what, man? 5 years... They were, for half a decade, the absolute talk of the NFL, and for several years after, they were still interesting. It is to this day the last football team in America professionally that I rooted for actively. It's my last favorite professional team. There's pro teams like the Patriots I watched playing. I was a fan of the Cowboys. That's the last team in America like I would pump my fist. Like I rooted for them to win games. I loved Aikman. I loved Jimmy. I loved Jerry. I like the star. I like their swagger. I like their stars. I like their deep touchdowns. I like Emmett. And I think we have a chance now to get that with Dak and Ezekiel and Dez. All right, let's go. We've been doing this, bouncing around every day to a new NFL camp live. Clarence Hill via the Coward Global Satellite Network. Live from the Cowboys camp in Oxnard, California. Clarence, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, Cowboys beat writer since '97. You were this weekend at the Hall of Fame ceremonies. How much of Jimmy and Jerry talking was just optics? Do you still think there's major bitterness by Jerry there?
No, I mean, time heals all wounds, and you said it best earlier, and certainly that's what happened. This was not the first time they've come together. They came together earlier this year for a reunion of their first '92 championship team that Troy Aikman organized, and he was there, and they both said glowing things about each other. Yeah, it was a tough time. They fell apart, and those wounds were real then. But as they look back on what they accomplished together, how could you not let that go? I mean, they accomplished so much together, and Jerry said it. They restored the respect of the Cowboys franchise. They made them winners again. Yeah, time heals all wounds. They've moved past that, and don't be surprised if Jimmy Johnson's not in the Cowboys Ring of Honor soon. Yeah,
you think about it, Clarence. The Lakers, this is what broke up Bus and Pat Riley and Jerry West and Phil Jackson. It became, who's getting the credit? And then George Steinbrenner and Joe Torre and Alex Rodriguez and other great, talented people. If you look at the Yankees, the Cowboys, and the Lakers, Clarence, they're like American sports royalty. And in the end, it's men fighting for credit. And I look back at it, I blame Jerry more than Jimmy. Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, you have to blame Jerry more than Jimmy because Jimmy was the coach. He was the architect of those two title teams, and certainly the ones that 3 and 4 years. He's the guy that put it all together. But they're two big egos, and you know that. And they're big egos in a big market under the spotlight of America's team. We talked about how the Cowboys were the talk of the town. You talked about how much you were a fan of the team and all the swag, and they exuded all of that. And they did it, as Bill Parcells said, in the big room in Vegas. And that's what the Cowboys were. And so credit mattered. Credit mattered to both of them.
Yep.
And certainly it definitely mattered to Jerry Jones. He didn't want to seem like he was just brought along for the ride because, again, he fired Tom and brought in Jimmy for a reason, and he got all the criticism for firing Tom. He started this.
Okay, let's get an update on Ezekiel Elliott missing games. Now, Dallas's offensive line is good enough, Clarence, where they can sustain a running game to some level without Zeke. What are you hearing on the latest in his possible suspension?
Well, just from Jerry. Jerry himself, he said it over and over again at the start of camp, weekend of camp. This week in Canton, he does not think Zeke will be suspended. He said they don't have enough information. He's seen all the evidence that NFL has regarding the domestic violence case, regarding other stuff off the field, and there's nothing there. They don't think Elliott's crossed that threshold where he should be suspended. Certainly, if he is suspended, then certainly that's the big elephant in the room here at Cowboys camp because, they're hoping for the best. But, if he's suspended, that's a setback because he's one of the truly special running backs in this league, and this offense and his team is built around the running game.
Okay, when Ryan Tannehill gets injured, I said this Friday, I'd call Tony Romo 1 and Jay Cutler 1A. I see him as pocket guys and veteran guys. I watched Tannehill get hurt, so Cutler's off the market. And I got to be honest, Clarence, I'm sitting there thinking, Tony Romo's sitting there, and Tony can still play, and Tony's back is now good. Give me do you believe there will be a moment this year, Clarence, where Tony will consider a job in the NFL?
I don't. I don't think, and you say his back is good, but his back is not good. And the thing about his back is it takes him a while to get, even the last couple of years, it takes him a while to get that back ready to play in the playing condition. And certainly the Cowboys were accommodating for that. I don't know if any other team will be accommodating for this. It's not like he can walk out the booth and play next weekend or play even in 2 weeks. he has to get that back ready. And that back is a problem. It's going to remain a problem. And again, when he came back the last couple of years, it was a process of getting the back ready to play football. So the notion of Tony just walking out the booth and coming back on the field, I think that's for fans and people who still admire what Tony did, that think that that's a possibility. The reality is that's not going to happen. And Tony has told us. He told us, unlike Jay, he said, I'm committed to being a broadcaster, and he's worked hard at this.
How has Dak's camp been, Clarence? I mean, you've been to so many of these camps. You've been to 20 of these. There's a lot of things we see highlights. But, Clarence, what do you make of Dak's camp? Has it been solid, spectacular? You tell us.
It's been solid, and it's been solid again. But the difference is last year he came into camp as a fourth-round project, the third quarterback, fourth-round project, not expecting any of this to happen. Certainly Tony was, doing his back thing, and Kellen Moore got hurt a weekend into camp, and he was forced into the starting job. This year, he's come in. He's the man. He's the face of the franchise. He's running this team. He's the leader of this team. He has a bigger, larger grasp of the offense. He's allowed to make checks at the line of scrimmage. He's more comfortable running this team in his second year, and that's what you'll see. And certainly, we talk about Zeke being out. If Zeke is out, it's going to be more on Dak and Dez and those guys doing things in the passing game. They're more confident about doing that because Dak and Dez have better chemistry. They're going to be on the same page. You will see what he did last year, that Green Bay playoff game, when Dez had his first 2 touchdowns of his playoff career in that game. He and Dez are going to be on the same page. They should be able to sustain a loss because of the improvement of Dak Prescott as a quarterback and running this offense.
Clarence Hill, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, beat writer for 20 years. Thanks for coming on The Herd, man.
Thank you. 2 playoff wins in those 20 years.
Just had to add insult to our John Goulet via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network. By the way, did you see that? Look at that right there. Boy, that's fancy. Sorry for our radio audience. That's crazy, right? That's network level. It's very nice. We got a mic flag. We have a graphics. It is almost like we're a television show. And so it took us 2 years to get it together, but we're really starting to come together here. Got a little duct tape, a little Bondo, starting to look like a real operation here. Really starting to put it together. By next year, T-shirts and cups for everyone. It's a very exciting time here. So Aaron Rodgers came out and said something this weekend. And I'm not sure if I'll defend him. I might. But I will say something about Aaron Rodgers next that I think he's in a class where we have to understand the expectations for him. That's next. Yeah, I think a lot of these Cap fans just aren't being honest, by the way. Fidel Castro T-shirt in Miami. You don't think that plays a part? You're being totally intellectually dishonest. Your girlfriend calls the Ravens owner a slave owner, and you don't think that has something to do with it? I mean, come on, Kaepernick fans. You got to be honest about it. If you're unemployed, I mean, you can get in trouble when you're employed, but when you're unemployed seeking a job and you're doing things that could be seen as hostile or offensive to an owner, owners have a right to be angry. You have a right as a player to be angry. Why doesn't an owner have a right to be angry? Players have certain players they wouldn't want to play with. Why don't owners have a right to not employ certain players? But the Kaepernick fan base now is just not being honest. He's a runner over a thrower. He was never a great progression reading quarterback. The Castro T-shirt did him no favors in Miami, and you won't even put that in your article? Like, that's when you want to know why the media trust factor with the public is in the toilet? Because if you're not putting that Castro shirt in your article, you're being intellectually dishonest. I saw a poll this weekend on the American media and who people trust. You know who people don't trust? The big networks. The New York Times. They don't trust them. They trust The Economist. They trust NPR. But, I mean, the Kaepernick fans now are not being honest about it. You cannot. We got a lot of things here now with Kaepernick. The knee, the socks, calling cops names, his girlfriend calling an owner slave owner. We got a series of things here where, if you're honest, they're not doing him any favors as an unemployed quarterback. I mean, if he was employed, this would ruffle feathers. Unemployed? You don't think it's going to ruffle any feathers? You got to be honest to the public. I'm a media guy. I'm trying to give you both sides. I told you Friday I'd call Jay Cutler, give him the job. Listen, Jay Cutler was employed by Fox. My bosses probably didn't love when I said Friday on the air, hey, Jay, go take a job. But my bosses don't tell me what to say. But you got to be honest about Kaepernick. He's not doing himself any favors with all this political stuff. He's just not. Be honest about it. He's not good enough to overcome some of this stuff. It's like Tim Tebow. And I was anti-Tebow. Too many people want to make this about just race. Maybe that's a component. But Tim Tebow, I was anti-Tebow from day one, and I said his faith-based following made so much noise that you had to consider that the only way I would have brought Tebow on is if he had like Tom Brady Tebow, Aaron Rodgers Tebow. I'll take a great quarterback, but come on, the Kaepernick stuff, you have to be at least honest to the public if you're a member of the press. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So Aaron Rodgers came out this weekend. He was talking to Peter King, and Aaron Rodgers said, yeah, I feel the pressure to win it all, to be the Patriots of the NFC. It's sort of omnipresent. I don't feel like our window is closing here. In order for some of the stuff to go away, the outside noise, we're going to have to win another Super Bowl. And first of all, he's right to some degree. But let me just say this about Aaron Rodgers. Is a lot of times we're very tough on people. Like if they don't win a Super Bowl, they're a bum. And if they win one, they're great. And listen, I think we have to be honest about Aaron Rodgers. The Green Bay Packers don't pursue free agents, don't often re-sign their free agents. They're a bar stool missing a leg. And so to me, Aaron Rodgers winning one Super Bowl is enough. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer and I think a top 10 quarterback of all time. I don't need Aaron Rodgers to win a second Super Bowl. Do I think it would elevate him a lot? Not really. It wouldn't for me. Drew Brees only needed to win one. Now, Joe Flacco needs to win two because I think his organization's great. And I think there are questions about, I think he played most of his career with a great defense. Aaron Rodgers has played with a great defense once in 9 years. And he's been to 3 NFC championships, Super Bowl, won it. So like the idea that like Charles Barkley didn't need to win a title to be great. I said when Peyton Manning won in Denver, he didn't need to win that to be great. Super Bowls are not equal. Eli Manning's got 2. I don't consider him to be in the same class as Dan Marino with none. The questions about Green Bay now are not about Aaron Rodgers. The questions about Green Bay now are about Green Bay. You can't be in this league as a starter for 9 years, win your Division 5, get to 3 NFC championships, get to a Super Bowl and win it. Aaron's an all-timer. And I'm dead serious here. Once he got to 1, because I did have some questions. He was aloof. He's a little condescending. My thing is that going to hold him back? But once he got in 1 and kind of carried his team for about a month and a half, it's all good with Aaron. The questions now are not about Aaron. The questions now are about free agency, operational mediocrity, an unwillingness to spend money when you have one of the best players in the sport. To me, Aaron's... Honestly, I'm supposed to feel better if Aaron plays 3 more years, he wins his division twice, gets to another NFC championship, doesn't win a Super Bowl. Like I think less of him? Why? He's going to go down as the highest passer rating in the sport. He'll largely have dominated the NFC, much like Peyton and Tom did the AFC. The difference is Tom is at an organization that has gone after free agents multiple times and re-signed their own multiple times and had great defenses multiple times. But I think the Aaron Green Bay thing, it's not on Aaron anymore. It's on Green Bay now. Aaron's done his job. This is on the Packers. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
John Wall just signed an extension to stay with Washington through 2023. So He was asked about Kyrie Irving and wanting to leave the Cavs. Maybe he could relate or understand. And here is his thoughts on that.
It's kind of tough in the situation because I've been in 3 straight finals. I'm like, I would want to stay, but you never know what type of relationship or whatever detail they have going on the backside, and nobody knows behind closed doors. And also, he's one of those guys he wants to be the main guy. And I mean, and it kind of is in a difficult situation when you play with a guy like LeBron James that's so dominant and everybody wants to always going to be the second guy to him.
I think that's really all there is to it. Yes, he has made it to the finals 3 times. He did win a ring, so I could see why he would want to stay. But at the same time, we don't know what went on behind closed doors. He felt like, all right, I've got my ring. I don't want to deal with LeBron anymore. He might be leaving anyways. Time for me to go do my own thing.
That's fine. I mean, I still think he should have waited a year, but I mean, that's, and I don't think he should say publicly, I'll never stay wherever I go, because I think he's now.
Well, he said he's not going to make any promises. He didn't say, I never will.
Listen, if I was Kyrie and I was just selfish, let's say Kyrie's totally 100% selfish. Mm-hmm. I think you're better served staying one more year than doing it, because then LeBron leaves. It's sympathetic. I just think his timing's bad. I am 4 guys leaving. By the way, when LeBron left Miami, and I remember the last year they lost to San Antonio, I thought they looked like this team. I thought it looked kind of a little bit old. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm not sure if they're going to win the East anymore, because Bosh was falling apart and D-Wade was getting old. I just think Kyrie should have given it a year. But listen, if Kyrie goes to a good team like Boston, mm-hmm. we all win here, because Boston's going to be spectacular.
Yeah.
And so, in the end, if LeBron and Kyrie go to separate places, as long as it's not like Sacramento, LeBron's not going there, the winner is the fans, because you'll get 2 great teams to challenge the Warriors.
And imagine if the Eastern Conference Finals is LeBron versus Kyrie. I would love to see that. Bob Kraft gave a Super Bowl ring to Tom Brady's mother. It was in recognition of her struggles, because remember, she was dealing with cancer and the impact that it had on her son last year. I think that's a really cool thing for him to do, but it also brings up the point of how close are Bob Kraft and Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah.
And if and when Brady is not as good as he is right now, will Kraft step in and kind of take away Belichick's power? Because I think Belichick would be more likely to cut him, trade him, do something, and maybe Kraft steps in and says no.
Yeah, it's a, I don't know. It just feels like me in the last year, the whole Brady, Belichick, Kraft thing feels different. New England's now giving up their draft picks. They never did. The whole time for New England, it was accumulate draft picks. Mm-hmm. The last 2 years, they've given them all up. It's like, it kind of feels like they're giving him an on-field present. Like, Tom, we're not going to do this forever. We're going to go all in to get you titles. Now we're giving your mom the Super Bowl ring.
It's not all for Tom. I mean, he did win the whole team, the whole organization.
I'm not
title.
No, I'm not denying it, but it does feel like they have shifted as Tom's getting close to the end. By the way, Tom's now doing every commercial offered. He went 12 years of doing none. It does feel like the end's coming. I don't know when, but it does to me. It feels like we're getting close here. It really does.
Is it that, or is it the media has just generated that this is going to be his last year?
Well, I mean, he's on 9 commercials now, and for a decade he wouldn't do any. It does feel like he's...
They're all very classy, though.
No, they're all good.
High-end commercials.
No. He's not doing Oreos. Nothing against Oreos, but he's doing high-end beds. But he did for a decade. He just disappeared, and now it's like he's on every other commercial during a game.
Okay. And finally, Ryan Anderson, who is a second-round pick in Washington, used to play at Alabama, has had his first tastes of NFL practice, and he's comparing it to the practices from Alabama. Here he is.
How much has your career at Alabama, or your time there, prepared you for a pro style of practicing and playing?
It did. I mean, it was... Practices there are a little bit rougher than here. You know what I mean? We do a lot of banging around that, so it definitely prepared me physically and mentally for this grind that I'm doing now.
So he just said Redskins practice is easier than Alabama practice. Does that mean that Alabama's practices are too tough, or that Washington's are too easy?
You know what I'm sensing, Christine, and I was at 2 practices over the last week. I went to 2 USC practices over 4 days. Mm-hmm. 3 days. And my sense is what you're seeing now in all of football is all practices are lighter. Like when I went to the USC practice, it was the first day of pads. and it was only grabbing, no pulling to the ground. And I asked one of the coaches, I'm like, how often will you tackle? How many days a week? And they're like, maybe one.
But that's not happening at Alabama.
No, it probably isn't, but it's my understanding, the more I talk to coaches and watch football, listen, everybody's listening to this stuff that's going on out there. Youth participation numbers are dropping, equipment's getting better. I think tackling in football outside of games, I think it's going down.
I don't know. See, I think the fact that this guy, he's a rookie, probably shouldn't be saying too many controversial things in that situation. And the fact that he did tells me that maybe he was taking a little shot at Alabama.
Alabama has a reputation of grinding their guys. Yeah. They get their running backs, and they're great out of high school. They're great for about 2 years at Bama, and by the end of it, 40 carries a game, they're worn out.
Yeah, he's ready to go. He's like, this is heaven compared to that.
Yeah. And it doesn't shock me, though. It really doesn't. I don't go to as many NFL camps as I do college camps. But the college camp I go to at USC, hitting's down.
Now you can go to 2 camps real close.
I know. Really close. Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line
To
News.
find a dentist with the latest technology like CEREC, do what over 9 million people have done. Call 1-800-DENTIST or visit 1-800-DENTIST.com/CEREC. It's spelled the same front as it is back, CEREC. Speaking of, I saw this story where Greg Schiano called the current Ohio State defensive line the most talented he's coached. This is actually one of the reasons I chose Ohio State to win the national championship this year, because not only do I think Ohio State has a great coach, a very good quarterback, and a tremendous defensive line, but I think they match up very well. The 4 best teams, in my opinion, are Alabama, USC, Florida State, and Ohio State. The strength of Ohio State is their defensive line. The weakness of USC, Florida State, and Alabama is their offensive lines. So I think Ohio State would beat USC, Alabama, and Florida State head-to-head. I also think Ohio State's schedule, they get 9 days to prepare for Oklahoma at home. They get Penn State at home off a bye. They don't play Wisconsin, and there's no back-to-back road games. So quarterback, schedule, D-line. But the reason I picked Ohio State to win the national championship is if they do play USC, Florida State's pretty marginal up front offensively, or Alabama, I think their defensive line will absolutely control the game. And, I saw another, and I really do think Ohio State's going to win the title this year. I think they're really, really good. And then when you get down to the great teams, it's how do they match up? I saw another stat. This came out today, and I don't know who gave this to us, but somebody did. They went and found, since Nick Saban arrived at Alabama, the scoring margin for Alabama against just the SEC since 2008. So Saban and Bama since 2008 until last year, the scoring margin. This is where the SEC has got a big problem. The blue bloods in the SEC are Auburn, Tennessee, LSU, Georgia, Florida. They are humiliating these teams. The SEC isn't losing to Alabama. They're not competitive. So when Vegas is now not considering the SEC as dominant, when the magazines aren't, this is not anti-Southern bias. It's just Alabama's great and there is no second team. Think about this. So I have the scoring margins today between Alabama and the opponents in the SEC. I mean, it's unbelievable. They've outscored Auburn in 8 years, 322 to 160. Tennessee, 310 to 100. Florida, 246 to 112. LSU, 220 to 130. I mean, it's awful. Texas A&M, they've doubled. Vanderbilt, 34-0. Mississippi State, 282 to 70. I mean, it's just unbelievable. They're destroying people. Let me ask you, what happened the last time Alabama faced the ACC? They lost to Clemson. How about the time before they faced Clemson? They won 45-40. What happened the last time they faced Ohio State? They lost. Oklahoma, they lost. Washington in a bowl game, at least competitive. See, this is the problem. It's not that Alabama's winning the SEC. Nobody is competitive against the SEC, and the reason is very simple. Every conference has 2 or 3 blue bloods. And the Big Ten is great right now because they're blue bloods. Michigan and Ohio State have the 2 best coaches. in the Big Ten for years and years. Bob Stoops, Mac Brown. The Big 12's two blue bloods had the best coaches. Right now in the ACC, your powerhouses are Clemson, Florida State. They arguably have the two best coaches. The problem in the SEC is of your 4 or 5 blue bloods, you got a lot of coordinators running programs. And college football is not simply about the players. College football, much more than the NFL, is about the coach. And right now, the SEC has huge issues in their blue blood programs and their coaches. Jay Cutler's joining us next. How about that, Christine?
I'm excited about Jay Cutler.
So am I.
I have questions.
Oh, you do? I'm excited for that.
Yeah. I also was really, I love his wife, Kristen Cavallari. I was really hoping that maybe she'd come in sometime.
Was she in Laguna or OC?
Both.
Oh.
The Hills, and she was on
I remember the Hills.
The OC. Yes.
So she was in both.
Yeah.
Were those real or documentaries?
They're real.
Okay.
For the most part. And she is from Chicago. Me too.
There you go. Get a Casper mattress. Sleep cool and comfortable every night. It's a higher quality mattress at a more affordable price. Test it yourself for 100 nights risk-free. Use the code HERD, Casper.com. Terms and conditions apply. For the record, Jay Cutler's only 34 years old. So he's not like his... And most of these NFL, he took some shots, but he's 34 years old. So I said it Friday, and I'm saying this ad nauseum, as I said Friday when the word came out on Tannehill. If I was the Miami Dolphins, I'd have called Tony Romo and Jay Cutler and gotten them on the phone. And apparently they got the agent on the phone, and Adam Gase had worked with Jay Cutler. And I think sometimes if you've never played football, this is something that it's not like basketball. It's not like baseball. Like football, there's a reason they practice so much in football. You have to learn the language. Like that's a thing in football. Like I don't know hockey, so I won't speak on it. I don't know soccer as well. But in basketball, you can go to the Y and 5 guys within an hour playing well and have a little chemistry. I mean, if you have a good point guard who distributes and can beat his man off the dribble, people are going to get shots, all of you. But in football, you could find the 11 greatest guys in the world. They need 9 practices to run an offense. I mean, you have to be able to speak the language. Now, I only quarterbacked for a year in high school, but I had to memorize a playbook. And you just don't do it in an hour. It takes time. So Jay Cutler and Adam Gase had worked together. And they know the same language, and it's August, 6th or 7th or 8th or 9th, and you're getting ready for games this week. So you can bring him in. He knows the language. In fact, you see this a lot with coaches in professional football, is when they bring certain quarterbacks in, do they have a relationship with the quarterback? Because that means, the quarterback knows my language. So that if you don't play football or never have, that's just not understanding quite how the world works. And so I said this Friday, to me, Jay Cutler was the obvious call for Adam Gase. I'm happy for Jay. He got a lot of money. He's 34. He's got one of the liveliest arms of all time. And I get it. I totally, completely get it. And here at Fox, he went into a 3-man booth. So it's pretty obvious. I didn't talk to our bosses about this, but they probably felt, hey, Jay's got some football left in him. He's now a Dolphin quarterback, and Jay is joining us. First of all, congratulations, Jay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, let's just go to Friday or Thursday or Friday. So basically, Adam Gase was very interested. You probably sat there, took a phone call, went back and forth. What was the deciding factor for you, Jay?
I think at the end of the day, you don't get to play football forever. And when a situation like this comes along, you gotta seriously consider it. And, talking with Chris and my wife and kind of everyone that's important to me, we seem like that this was one of those opportunities I had to take.
Let's talk about the language, because if you've never played football and you're listening to this interview, you may not understand it. But Adam Gase has an offense, and you were really good in this offense. How much of this was you understanding that you could pop in and figure this puppy out pretty quick?
It was huge for me. I think I've talked about it, in the last couple of months of joining a new team is always really hard, especially like you said, learning a new offense, learn the players, the coaches, the style that they like to play at. And here with Adam and the Dolphins, it's one of those situations where, a few of those parameters are kind of taken out because I know Adam, I know how he likes to call games, I know how he likes to operate, and I know the system. I'm sure he's made a few changes since I had him last, but I would think that I'll be able to learn it pretty quickly.
Do you believe if Gase had stayed in Chicago, would you still be there, Jay?
I don't know. We can make some hypotheticals about a lot of things. I was happy for him when he got this Miami job, and when he gave me a call this past weekend, I was happy to hear his voice.
Is it possible, Jay, that this was the one team you would have come back for, or did you have a mental list of 2 or 3?
It had to be a perfect situation, and I think this is one of those situations where everything kind of fell into place, like you're saying, and the timing was right. The personnel was right. The coach was right. I was in a situation in my life that my wife kind of allowed me to leave and do these type of things. So it worked out well.
Miami was actually a playoff team last year. Jay, how well do you know their personnel?
I'm getting to know it. I've looked it over this past weekend. I'm obviously here now, so we're going to dive right in, and I'm just going to try to help any way I can.
How many snaps, Jay? Take us through this mental growth stage, because you know the offense. Like this now, generally for a guy like you, preseason's not that valuable. Will you want to play in these preseason games?
I do. We have one Thursday, which I probably won't play in that one, but 2, 3, and we'll talk about 4. But I'm a little bit behind the rest of these guys here because they've been through OTAs, they've been through a mini camp and training camp. There, however many practices are in it. So I got a little catching up to do with those guys, but I think mentally I should be right there with them because I know the system. I ran it. With Adam and then with Dow, whenever Adam left, we kind of kept a lot of the same stuff in place. So it's very, very familiar to me.
Jay, I never worry about your arm, but and I've talked to a lot of guys that have retired for 10 years, and they still tell me they can spin it. How good a shape are you in? Just give me your sense of if you've been working out a lot. Are you ready to go here pretty quick?
I think, I've been working out. I've been doing stuff. I haven't probably thrown as much as some of the quarterbacks here, but I've definitely thrown a football. And, it's going to take a week or so to get everything kind of firing, but I'm not too far away.
Do you think, Jay, you'll come back to broadcasting? Because I was kind of, you went to Vanderbilt. You're a bright guy. You played in the league. You had a personality. What did you, when you had to call the Fox executives, what do you kind of feel about broadcasting?
I felt bad about that. Those guys were so good to me, and it was a really good group of guys that I was going to get to work with. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for them in that situation that this came about. But like we said, it's one of those things that you never know what's going to happen in the future. And when this happened, I kind of had to jump on it. If I go back to in the future, I don't know. If Fox will have me back, it's definitely something I'd have to consider.
And finally, why does Adam Gase's offense work for you? Like it did. I have all your numbers. I remember it. What specifically works for your skill set?
Well, I think every time Adams called plays, it's pretty much been successful. It works for Peyton. I think Brock's been with them. Ryan last year had success with them. So I think it's more, he's got to get a little bit more credit than the actual quarterback. He does a really good job of putting you in good situations. He knows the personnel. He knows how to use everybody. He's very conscious of running the football and keeping things balanced. He does all the things really good play callers do.
Does he give you freedom at the line of scrimmage to audible stuff?
Oh yeah, there's total freedom in this system. There's check with me. Some of the players have a couple play calls in them. You kind of have to do that in today's league to be competitive, I think.
Well, you're going to face Tom Brady a couple times, so that'll be fun TV. And Jay, I wish you the best of luck with the Dolphins.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Jay Cutler, Dolphins quarterback, Bears, Broncos. And there you go. He did mention his wife. He did mention. So it was Christine Cavallari.
No, Kristen.
I'm sorry.
Cavallari.
Kristen. I know what she looks like. And I know she was in one of those very popular Orange County shows.
Yes.
I didn't know she was in 2 of them.
The Hills was the spinoff.
Didn't she do like a clothing line or something?
She has a shoe line with Chinese laundry, and she has
What's that mean? You can't just throw that out there.
Shoe line. They sell it at
Yeah,
Nordstrom.
well, what's the Chinese laundry thing?
It's a brand.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And then she has a jewelry line of her own.
Oh, so
She's an entrepreneur.
Oh, no, very good for her. You threw Chinese laundry out there like I was supposed to know what that meant. You know where I get my shoes?
Nordstrom.
Converse.
No, you don't.
Nike store.
Show me.
Well, they're just brown shoes.
Those are not Converse.
Hold on.
Show us your flexible. I thought you were going to show us the flexible.
It says Echo.
Echo. This looks like a very sensible shoe.
I thought Echo was a golf shoe, isn't it?
Maybe it is a golf shoe.
It is a sensible shoe. Yeah, I'm not a real big shoe guy.
That's okay. You don't have to be a shoe guy.
Is Aaron a shoe guy?
Yes.
Is he?
We have an entire closet dedicated to shoes.
Holy moly!
Yes.
We have
Like Jordans, though.
What?
Jordans. Not like those kind of shoes. Nikes, Jordans.
Michael, Frank, what Jordan? Michael Jordan?
Michael,
Oh,
yes.
okay. I got some Frank Jordans.
Okay.
They didn't really sell. They're pretty cheap. All right, there you go. First 2 hours. Last hour coming up. We're just starting, man. We're only 76% done. It's the herd. 67. This is the herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. Christine Leahy is joining me. And Christine, an athlete that you covered in your days in Boston, Vince Wilfork, has retired. 5-time Pro Bowler. To me, always was funny. Every time I saw a quote, I thought he was funny. 2 Super Bowls, 13 years. He played last couple of years with Houston. Do you remember Vince?
I do. I mean, how could you not remember Vince? He is quite the presence. I think everybody liked him, liked working with him. Patriots all liked him.
Yeah.
It was weird when he wasn't there anymore.
It was. That was one of those. There's been a couple of them. Belichick, runs through players. There's like 1 or 2 where people are like, Belichick let go of that guy?
Yeah.
He won a national title at Miami. When I lived in New England, I think he had a pizza deal or something. Like I'd go to the convenience store, John.
That sounds about right.
It was with Big Y, which is a supermarket. It was the Super Bird.
Yes, it was.
It's like this 40-pound turkey you could buy.
Yes. So Vince Wilfork has retired after 13 seasons, 2 rings, 5-time Pro Bowler. Want to start, though, our third hour with this. If I was the Miami Dolphins, I would have called Tony Romo and Jay Cutler, and I would have offered Tony Romo and Jay Cutler my starting job. They are starting quarterbacks. And in this instance, Adam Gase, who's Miami's coach, has worked with Jay Cutler. And in fact, they not only worked together, it was the best year Jay Cutler ever had. And if you've never played football, you may not understand about what I'm going to say, but you ever heard of Rosetta Stone, where you learn a language? You've heard of Rosetta Stone, right? You're going to go to Italy in 2 months, and you buy Rosetta Stone, and you try to learn at least sidewalk Italian so you can say hi, thank you, please. In the NFL, being a quarterback is learning a language. Every coach has a different language they use for football. They're semi-similar, but not all the same. Adam Gase and Jay Cutler speak the same language. It's plug and play. It's August 7th. He knows the language, can walk in and make stuff happen. Too many of you comparing this and comparing that. I also want to say Adam Gase decided to choose a quarterback who didn't wear a Fidel Castro T-shirt ever. Oh, Colin, that doesn't matter. Oh, really? Remember when Ozzie Guillen was the manager of the Marlins? I'm going to read you an article written by a fine baseball writer. There aren't a lot of rules on what you can and cannot do in Miami, which is why the Marlins have seemed like a perfect spot for Ozzie Guillen. Yet, if there's a line to cross, Guillen will somehow find it. There is one thing you don't say in Miami. It's I love Fidel Castro. Ozzie Guillen said it and had to apologize. Ozzie Guillen had a job and had to apologize. What do you think it would be like if you didn't have a job and were seeking one in Miami and said it? you're not going to get that job. Kaepernick's unemployed. It's a marginal quarterback, has no relationship with Adam Gase. Cutler does. And he wore a Fidel Castro shirt and spoke highly of him. You don't think it matters a little? You don't think it matters a little that Kaepernick's girlfriend, who is a somewhat public figure, last week called the Baltimore Ravens owner a slave owner? You do realize when you looked at her tweet, she was essentially saying all NFL owners are. If you don't have a job and are seeking one, you cannot be marginally offensive to somebody who owns a team and can employ you. There's freedom of speech and there's freedom of repercussions. Like the media is just not telling you the truth here. They're saying Kaepernick's completion percentage and Kaepernick what? Cutler has a relationship with Adam Gase. In fact, it was really good. Nobody's insinuating Jay Cutler is Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. I'm not saying Kaepernick's not capable of being a quarterback. But if you don't think the Castro thing in Miami is something, you're not paying attention. Cutler was the choice, the smart choice, and for Miami and Adam Gase, the only choice, as long as Tony Romo didn't pick up the phone. Let me shift gears to Jerry and Jimmy. Jerry Jones, owner of the Cowboys, this weekend inducted into the Hall of Fame. And on the same weekend that LeBron James posted a workout on Instagram and said, this is the price of being great. They hate you while you're winning, but love it when you break. So let's go back to Jimmy and Jerry, because I think these two have a lot in common. Jimmy and Jerry were amazing. And then Jimmy and Jerry suddenly were not. Egos got involved. And Jerry Jones was funny about it this weekend.
After Jimmy screwed up and we parted ways, I come home and, of course, Jean has been watching the news. After I laid there a minute, she just looks over and said, you can't stand it, can you? You just absolutely, when it gets going, you just got to get in it and mess it up.
Listen, I'm watching Jimmy and Jerry this weekend, and it was a wonderful thing, and then it ended. And I'm watching this Cleveland situation right now, Kyrie and LeBron, and it's going to end really soon. And why are we surprised? You do get that Jerry and Jimmy ended poorly. And so did Shaq and Kobe, and Favre and the Packers, and Manny and the Red Sox, and Montana and the Niners, and Boston's Big Three, and LeBron and Wade, and Mac Brown in Texas, and Pete Carroll in USC, and Peyton in the Colts, and Woody Hayes in Ohio State. You realize every guy's got a pickup line, but can never figure how to break up. When those relationships begin, it's all about us. And then they get rich and famous. And then it becomes all about me. And they break up. By the way, Kyrie and LeBron, 3 years, 3 finals, and a title. That's pretty good. If you were a Cleveland sports fan the day LeBron left and went to Miami, if I'd have told you that day he'd come back, you'd go to 3 straight finals and win a title, you'd have signed up for it. All you do when smart, driven men get together, and there are championship possibilities and aspirations, you just hold it together as long as you can. The Big Three in Boston got 1 title. LeBron and Wade got 2. Shaq and Kobe got 3. LeBron and Kyrie got 1. Success. May win 1, may win 2, may win 3. But this is how it ends in Hollywood. And this is how it ends in sports when legends get together. It goes from us to me to over. Kyrie and LeBron's done. May happen at the All-Star break, may happen in December. It'll happen when Cleveland finally gets the offer they want. And Jimmy and Jerry, is it a sad ending? No, it's an inevitable ending. That's the way it works with guys. Success, money, egos, it's over. When shopping for car insurance, consider this. Geico's been saving people money on car insurance for over 75 years. Go to geico.com. 75 years, they know what they're doing. The other story, obviously, this morning, and I've tried to kind of stay away from the Kaepernick stuff because I think it's become a political story, not a football story, and I'm a football guy. So for the last month, I've just stayed out of the Kaepernick lane. My friend Jason Whitlock likes it. Shannon Sharp likes it. A lot of people like it. I'm not into it. I am a football guy, and Kaepernick has become a political story. But I will tell you this. His Fidel Castro T-shirt is a real deal in Miami. It did him no favors. Let me tell you something. I just got a text from a friend of mine who was born and raised in Miami, and he's in the American media. He said, you're right about Castro. Dolphins season ticket base, easily 30% Cuban. Ozzie Guillen was a popular manager of the Florida Marlins. Said a nice thing, a brief sentence about Castro. As an employed manager, had to apologize to the owner and the city. Colin Kaepernick is unemployed and has shown his support for Castro. The fact that this is not being discussed more widely with this Dolphins opening is disingenuous. It is a real thing in that city. I was lucky enough, for 2 years I lived in Florida. The Cuban community in Tampa was incredible. The food, the people, Ybor City, just the quality of people. They're proud. They tend to range a little conservative politically. They are a huge part of Florida, a significant part of the economy. And Kaepernick's wearing a Fidel Castro shirt around. Listen, he is not good enough to be offensive to an ownership group. He's not. He came into this league as a backup. In his best year with Harbaugh, he completed barely 60% of his throws. You know, Jay Cutler, you can criticize him 26 times. 26 times has had over 300 yards passing. 35 times over 280 yards passing. He is a pocket quarterback. Kaepernick in his career has thrown for over 300 yards in his career with Harbaugh 6 times. In his best year, twice. That was the big year. So this is a pocket style, a pocket coach, a pocket quarterback, and the Castro comments, let's stop being disingenuous. They matter in Miami. I'm not saying, they were something. You got to at least put it in your article saying Cap's great. You got to put that in the article. Don't miss Get Shorty, the new Epix original series. High-stakes dark comedy starring Chris O'Dowd and Ray Romano. Premieres Sunday, August 13th, 10/9 Central, only on Epix. By the way, Ray Romano, I saw him in a movie called The Big Sick. It was really good. Ray Romano is like Steve Carell, like a funny guy that can really act. You know, I was thinking about it. I talked to Mark Schlereth about this earlier, about how, and we're seeing it at all sports, like they call it Moneyball in baseball, where you used to have this belief system. And then Moneyball kind of changed a lot of baseball and how you think. And then the NBA, for years and years, you could shoot the three-pointer, but you didn't shoot that many three-pointers. Now teams are shooting 40 a game. So the belief system changed. And it's usually when analytics come in and you look at raw data and math and numbers, and all of a sudden now, the NBA is all about shooting threes. It wasn't, I'm 52. I've been watching the NBA since I was 7. For the first 40 years, you didn't sit around and shoot threes all game. That's all you do now. You shoot threes. So the mid-range jumper, Michael Jordan's specialty, is not as valuable as it used to be. So what happens in sports, and this happens to all of them, is that sports go through ideological shifts and changes. The NFL has always been, football in general, has tweaked and tweaked and tweaked and tweaked and tweaked, much more than like baseball. And I can remember growing up, and there was the run and shoot. Do you guys remember the run and shoot? No more run the football. Pass, 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 pass. And then the run and shoot ultimately died. And then there's Chip Kelly. Then there's been other things. We used to have fullbacks. We no longer really use fullbacks. And now there's no huddles. And for a while, we had the Wildcat for 2 years, and that thing fizzled out. But football has always been willing to try stuff. And for a long time, quarterbacks just didn't run. You sat in the pocket and you threw the football. But then Michael Vick comes in the league and he starts winning some games, running around, and then you're like, oh, and then Tebow and Johnny Manziel and RG3 and running quarterbacks. And you do realize, though, that when you start adding up all these running quarterbacks, it ain't working. Tebow, he was a first-round pick. He was a bust. Michael Vick, not a bust, but underachieved. Johnny Manziel, runaround guy, bust. RG3, runaround guy, bust. Vince Young, underachieved. Cam Newton, don't kid yourself. He's underachieved. His talent is better than his win-loss record and his numbers. Now people go, what about Steve Young? Steve Young was a runner who finally became a pocket passer and a great one. What about Russell Wilson? Russell came from a pro-style college offense, was always a pocket thrower that used his mobility. He is a 64.5% completion quarterback. He's a pocket quarterback with mobility. So, like, we had Bill Romanowski on last week talking about that. This whole running thing. Kaepernick's a runner first. And he surprised people, and the Packers couldn't figure him out. But in the end, he was like a 59-60% completion guy who could never throw for over 300 yards. Like, that's what he is. And that window for that, we had about a 7-year window where we're trying. You notice the 3 quarterbacks next year that are available in the NFL draft, they're going to go 1, 2, and 3. They're all pocket quarterbacks. Like, the ideology started to kind of shift. Vic and Tebow and Manziel. And after about 7 busts, people are back on, okay, we'd like you to have some mobility, but even Carolina coaches are telling Cam Newton, stay in the pocket. Like, so when you say Kaepernick, to me, my images of Kaepernick are running, not throwing. And I asked Bill Romanowski about Steve Young, because Steve Young came in the league as a runner initially.
Steve Young, in his early days, he wanted to take off. He'd go 1, maybe 2nd read. If it wasn't there, he developed into the best, if not one of the best in the league at that time. He became a Hall of Famer because of that. He executed better than anybody because he put the time in to become a great quarterback, not a great athlete playing quarterback.
Yeah. And so, this idea about just ask yourself this, be completely honest with yourself, which is very hard for people because they dig in. They have a belief system. When I say Kaepernick, I think running. When I just think running. That's all his highlights. I think Green Bay running. And so that's the imagery around the league. As a 2nd-round guy, small school, came in with Harbaugh, ran, eventually eroded, and then got out of the contract, went political, did a knee, did some things. Now he's sitting out there. A lot of people view him ideologically as run guy. And you look around the league right now. Manziel, Tebow, RG3, Cam not playing to the level. Like, here's what I want from my quarterback. A pocket passer with good feet. The best quarterback in this league right now is Tom Brady. He doesn't run. I mean, even Dak Prescott, who everybody loves now, he's actually a pocket kid. He really is a pocket quarterback. Now he sidesteps very smartly. He's a pocket quarterback. That's what he is. Brett Favre could run. He's a pocket quarterback. So, like, if I'm a coach, I frankly look around the league and I'm like, yeah, we did that running thing, but in the end, guys get hurt and people have kind of figured out the zone read thing, and we gotta figure out that pocket, man. Gotta figure it out. If you're looking to sell your car, there's now a new better way to do it. TrueCar, fast, easy. TrueCar.com/trade today. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Byron Scott is officially saying that he is retired from coaching, which is nice, but you don't know whether he chose that or the NBA kind of chose that he would be done with coaching.
What do you mean the NBA?
Meaning
collusion?
Meaning he wasn't getting hired anywhere.
Right.
That said, this is the first time in many years that there have actually been no NBA head coaching positions open at the end of a season.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
We didn't have anybody fired, did we?
No.
I couldn't tell you the last time that happened.
I know, it's kind of crazy.
It is crazy.
But for the lack of that drama, there was definitely enough amongst the players to make up for it, to kind of distract us from that fact.
You mean their movement?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, this stuff, I like even the Kyrie LeBron story today where Brian Windhorst reports like it's not going to work and they're going to figure it out. I got to be honest. If I ran the NBA, like the world's worst thing isn't player movement. Like what's the date today? August 7th? Mm-hmm. We're still talking NBA.
When players move around, it makes certain series a lot more interesting the next year because you want to see them go back or be reunited with their old team.
And the other thing is, Christine, I grew up watching college basketball where guys went to college for 3 or 4 years. And when they came into the NBA, they were ready to be really good players. Mm-hmm. Well, since college guys now come into the NBA at 19, they don't really change the culture. So instead of if you're a bad team, isn't it more exciting to think we could get Kyrie Irving tomorrow than a kid that played at Washington?
Probably.
So, I mean, this player movement, what it's really doing, if the player lands in the right spot, Cleveland goes from dead to LeBron. And, I mean, Miami goes from hopeless to here comes Bosh and LeBron. It can literally overnight ignite a dead franchise.
Mm-hmm. The NFL has more relaxed rules on celebrations, but one thing they are not going back on is celebrations that include some type of simulated weaponry.
Yeah.
To which Josh Norman believes the NFL is personally targeting him.
One of them is banned and looked at as a dangerous act. How come all of them are not looked at that way? So somebody can just shoot a cannon in a stadium and it'd be fine. And somebody can just shoot off a musket and it'd be cool too. But then when a player shoot off a bow and arrow, an imaginary bow and arrow, up in the sky, that's a flag. That's a penalty. But see, if the same thing is in a stadium, everybody's doing it, it's like, what's the problem?
Josh Norman is a smart guy. And so I think he has something here.
Yeah, I don't.
What is simulated weaponry? Anything like that, or as a cannon?
See this
simulated weaponry?
Yeah, I
didn't see a problem with.
I'm being naive
here.
What is Josh Norman's whole thing mean?
I don't know.
Is there a hidden
bow and arrow?
Yeah, I know, but is there a hidden meaning behind it?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe the NFL knows something we don't.
See, now
know.
I'm watching him do it again. Like, what is the mean? I mean, I don't like
it's
celebrations.
Kind of his thing, but I don't really see a problem with that.
Yeah.
And finally, Usain Bolt participated in what's supposed to be his last professional individual sprint. He'll still do some team things.
This was the last one?
This is his last individual sprint, and he lost.
Yeah.
The 100-meter, which he has many, many gold medals, and he is the all-time record holder in the 100-meter race, but he lost. He was actually in third place.
Who'd he lose to?
In first place was Justin Gatlin, who's 35. Usain Bolt is 30.
30.
Gatlin, just going to throw it out there, has tested positive a couple times for steroids.
35-year-old
So it's interesting,
guy.
but Bolt lost in maybe his final race ever individually.
35-year-old guy, fastest guy in the world. Really?
Yeah, and just to see Usain Bolt lose this, it was very odd. I don't think it takes away from anything. This will be something that people will kind of forget, but it is kind of a sad way to end.
Yeah, what a perfect name to be a sprinter, Bolt.
Bolt, I think when he was born, his career was decided for him.
That'd be like Bjorn Borg, Bjorn Racket. It's like a perfect name, Usain Bolt. Like if you were going to be a great, like a football player, Bob Leather. Wouldn't that be a great name? Not really.
No.
Not really.
Like tackle? Like that could be a fisher too.
Ted Tackle. Now,
That's
Ted
good.
Tackle's
Ted
pretty
Tackle.
good for a linebacker.
But it sounds like a fisherman,
Yeah, you're right.
not a football player.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the news.
Christine, the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Let's bring the founder of thebiglead.com. He's on Speak for Yourself later on this network. Does the Fox Sports Radio Saturdays. So you had a big topic on your show this Saturday, which got some people all talking about.
I tend to do that, Colin.
So what was your big topic?
The future face of the NFL.
So right now it's Brady.
It's Brady. It was Peyton Manning before that, right? It was Brett Favre to an extent at the end of his career.
No, Brett Favre was American cowboy.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I'm of the opinion Brady's done after this year.
Okay.
Right? Are you on board with that or no? You think he's going to hang around?
I think it's closer than his fanboys are saying.
People forget 2 years before Peyton hit the wall, he had 55 TD passes. Like, the end comes quickly. You guys just talked about Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
I mean, greatest sprinter ever, and now third place. Like, come on.
It does. No,
Father time catches
just
up.
Like when you when you age. I could read. I went to dinner one night at a restaurant, and I could not read the menu. Like I tell people this all the time. You'll hit a wall, and you'll hit it fast.
Yeah. So we were thinking, like, who's the future face of the NFL? And we kind of boiled it down to 5 guys. First of all, how do you measure the face of the NFL, right? In the NBA, you can do jersey sales, MVP awards, but in the NFL, if you're a fan of the Cowboys, you're not buying an Odell Beckham jersey, right? So jersey sales don't matter as much in the NFL, right?
Right.
It's greatness, MVP awards, Super Bowl rings.
Also, jerseys tend to be hot and cold. Like, for instance, let's say you were a quarterback and started dating a model, and you could have a 2-week, like Tebow's jersey overnight went viral. It went crazy. He was never the face of the league.
Number one right now, Marshawn Lynch, who's now back in the league. He's now the number one jersey
sales. So jersey
Okay.
sales can just be kind of hot and cold.
Certainly. So greatness, and then the other one is the mom factor. Your mom texts you, boy, did you see Cam Newton in that interview? He was great.
Right.
Or I saw Tom Brady in his tuxedo at this event. He looked so sharp. If your mom is aware of the star,
that's a superstar.
He's got crossover appeal.
Yes,
He's in People magazine spreads, right? So we've got 5 guys. I'm going to run them by you. You tell me what you think.
Okay.
Number 1, your buddy, Aaron Rodgers. I think he probably is the leader in the clubhouse right now. 2 MVPs, Super Bowl, right? Some crossover appeal last summer. Remember, he was in the news every week? He happened to be dating an actress at the time, right? So he was super famous. Maybe your mom knew about him or was aware of his existence.
I would have no problem. I think he's darn close to the face of the league now. If Brady wasn't just continuing to dominate, I think so what you're theorizing is Brady retires, the face of the league is Aaron Rodgers. I think you're absolutely right.
But here's the pushback, and you know this from your experiences with him. And I've been covering sports for about 15 years now. You can tell guys who are prickly with the media, prickly with teammates. There's a lot of Aaron Rodgers stories floating around out there. Not the nicest guy. Now, he's got some national advertisements, right? But is he TV material? Is he movie material? Do you see him appearing on a grander scale to cross over into pop culture?
I do. Listen, Aaron Rodgers doesn't like me. And Aaron Rodgers, he's a very smart guy who can be prickly. But I think the general public, he's a Packer, so that softens him.
It's huge.
That any rough edges he has, he appears to like Green Bay. He wants to end his career in Green Bay. So I think America's like, that's awesome. I think he's done a great service to the Packers. I think the Packers, to a lesser degree, have done a service to Aaron Rodgers. They have softened him, and they've made him more relatable. So I think he is easily, next year, if Tom retires, easily the face of the league.
Remember, Peyton Manning's big step into that next level was when he started hosting Saturday Night Live. Peyton Manning does a couple skits. All of a sudden, everybody who wasn't a football fan, man, this guy's funny. He's really humorous. So Aaron Rodgers needs to take that next step. Number 2 after Rodgers. You may not like this one as much. I'm bullish on him. Russell Wilson of the Seahawks. Okay, think about this, Colin. Classic underdog, right? 3rd-round pick, undersized quarterback, comes in, boom. They're in 2 Super Bowls. He wins 1. Now, Tom Brady is the ultimate underdog in the NFL. 6th-round pick to greatest quarterback in NFL history. I see you kind of disagreeing on Russell.
No, I would say this. Handsome, plays the right position, has a Super Bowl, literally always says the right thing. But much like Brady, has a rock star, stunning, beautiful wife. I actually, so far, 1 and 2.
He's got this regalness about him, almost like a George Clooney quality, right?
Does.
He dresses well. He's very handsome. People compare me to Russell Wilson.
All the time, yes.
Yeah, I get that sometimes.
So far, I would say if Brady retires, I'd go Aaron 1, and I'd go Russell Wilson 2.
Now, here's where we go off the path, Colin. This is my guy, Andrew Luck, who I think should be the best quarterback in the league, but the Colts have done him wrong the last couple years, okay? Andrew Luck is what the NFL would love. Stanford graduate, book club guy, has a flip phone, no social media. He's what you want to market to the parents who then say, man, this Andrew Luck guy's got his act together. He graduated from Stanford. You're selling that to the moms who then trickle it down to the kids. The problem, of course, is he crossing over? Do you see Andrew Luck hosting Saturday Night Live?
I don't. I think he's a very reluctant star.
That's a great way to put it.
So I would not put him 3rd. Who would you put 3rd?
Well, I have Andrew Luck third, and my thing is he going to be able to get to the Super Bowl with the Colts? Because winning matters. He was in the AFC Championship 3 years ago. Since then, no playoffs, and guys are ready to put Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota above Luck.
Here's the good thing about Luck. He plays in the middle of the country.
Yep.
And the NFL is a middle-class, regular guy, regular family league, and so I agree with you with Aaron Rodgers. I agree with you, Russell Wilson. Listen, I think Luck would be in the discussion for number 3. Who's your number 4?
Number 4 goes off the rails a little bit. Your new best friend, Cam Newton. Okay, now let's hold the phone before you freak out, Colin. This guy was the MVP of the league 2 years ago. His smile, maybe the best smile in sports right now. This guy goes up to the podium after games. He's dressed dapper. He's appearing on sports blogs every week because of outfits he wears. Okay, this guy shows up at Coachella. Wearing what was he wearing, Christine? Do you remember? I think it was
a romper.
A romper, and rompers are now cool according to GQ.
No, that lasted like 5 minutes.
Yeah. They lasted 5
Even
minutes.
I know that,
Yes.
and I don't know fashion.
So Cam has that crossover appeal. I think he's got some Nickelodeon stuff going on.
Listen, I don't disagree with you. In fact, you know what? I'd put Cam ahead of Luck. Because I think I would say Aaron 1, Russell 2, Cam 3, Luck 4. First of all, one of the things I think is important with LeBron, he's polarizing. And I think Cam, like I say, I think he's underachieved. I think he can be kind of melodramatic. But I think Cam is probably, if Brady retires, I think I'd put him 3, and listen, part of being the face of the league is personality.
Yeah, he's got it.
Andrew's not a big personality guy, and Cam sometimes to a fault emotes too much.
I would agree with that, and also the inconsistency, Colin, a 52% completion quarterback, winning 6 or 7 games.
He's not as good as he should be for his talent. He's not.
Now the 5th guy, I know everybody's saying, well, where's the other position players? I'm going to go Odell Beckham, and I know that's crazy because I've been pushing online. The Giants should look to trade Odell Beckham. We've discussed this off air plenty, but Odell Beckham right now is the most popular young player in the NFL. It's not really close. Social media loves him. I know social media can be, a little distorted at times, but among young fans nationwide, Odell Beckham is massive. You've got a young son. My kids know who Odell Beckham is, and they don't know any NFL players.
No, I'm not. He'd be a different. So put this up. So the next face of the NFL if Brady retires is Rodgers agree, Russell Wilson agree. You have Luck 3. I'd have Cam 3. I'd have Cam 3 and Luck 4.
Here's the problem with Beckham.
I would have put 2 years ago J.J. Watt 5, but I think I'm okay with Beckham.
What about Matt Ryan? I got some pushback on Matt Ryan.
Again, very good, but I don't see him as. I think once you get out of the South, he's not as well known.
Yeah,
I think
he's also very bland.
He's just not an outspoken guy.
Now, other people were proposing Ben Roethlisberger.
It's been there. I'll throw a guy at you. Drew Brees and that iconic picture with his son.
Yes. Now I think for a moment he was there when he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think
he was up there, but they haven't won anything since.
I think it's lapsed. The one person that people will say is Dak Prescott.
Wow, boy.
Can I just say this? Here's where I would change from everything. I'm going to throw this out there. Is that the number 1 face in the league? I like your list. But I would back everybody up 1.
No, Colin, don't do it.
I would make Aaron Rodgers 2, Russell Wilson 3, Cam 4, Andrew Luck 5, and Beckham 6. You know who will be the face of the league?
Can't say it. Don't do it.
No, the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, come on.
Not a player. I think when Brady leaves for a short time, because they'll be winning 9, 10, 11 games, the Cowboys and the star will be the face of the league for a couple of years.
Well, that's if they can stay out of trouble. They got a bunch of guys on the defense in trouble. You know the first place schedule we've talked about. Colin, there's no guarantee they're going to the playoffs right now.
I have them. By the way, I am releasing tomorrow my NFL predictions.
And so I assume you have the Cowboys high up there? Come on, tease everybody.
I have them with a winning record, but I am not going to disclose this valuable information before it hits the press.
So how are you calling the Cowboys the face of the league?
Okay, let me ask you this.
Dak, not Ezekiel.
Okay, that's a good question. Weren't for years the Lakers and Celtics the face of the league?
Well, that was more Magic and Larry, right?
Well, was it? Or by the way, the SEC, not Alabama, for about a 10-year period, I can argue the SEC was the face of college football. By the way, Duke You can't name an individual player.
At college is mostly the coaches, right? Saban, Urban at Florida.
If I told you the faces of college basketball, I would say just the Duke brand.
Well, Coach K is the face of Duke, right?
He is, but I think of the Duke. This is not a shot at Coach K, but I think of now Calipari. When I think of Kentucky, I think of Calipari. When I think of Duke, I think of it as kind of the regal highest order of college sports. Yeah. By the way, for years and years, Notre Dame was the face of college football.
Yeah.
It wasn't a coach.
Lou Holtz had a good run.
It was Notre Dame. I honestly think I like your list, but
now you're listing a lot of college programs. In the pros, I believe it's different. In college, you have the coach, a dynastic run where you win, 10 titles in 20 years or whatever that Notre Dame did. I just don't see a team being, and plus, we don't know if the Cowboys are going to hold up. I mean, you got guys at this network saying Jason Garrett could be on the hot seat if they struggle.
Listen to this. The Dallas Cowboys, not Dak. The Cowboys were the highest rated game on 4 networks last year.
That's
4. They were NBC, no, 5. Us, CBS, NBC, Monday Night Football. Were they on the NFL?
But that's because they were good, Colin. Remember, they went through Jerry Jones is what Stephen Jones, I believe, said. We almost lost a generation of fans because we won like one playoff game in 20 years.
But what we have a history of, regardless of who the quarterback is, Tony Romo, Dak, Aikman, Staubach. When the Cowboys are good, they become the face of the league. His name is Jason McIntyre. Good stuff. Speak for yourself as well. Got to tell you. Don't miss Get Shorty, new Epix original series. High stakes, dark comedy. Chris O'Dowd and Ray Romano premieres this Sunday at 10/9 Central on Epix. Because in Hollywood, you're only as good as your next hit. Did you ever see Get Shorty? That was a funny movie.
I have not seen that one.
Oh, that was kind of the Quentin Tarantino. Was that John Travolta's comeback movie? Was Get Shorty? Oh, Pulp Fiction. My bad. Pulp
I've
Fiction.
seen Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction's pretty good. Pulp Fiction's better than Get Shorty, but Get Shorty's good too.
Okay.
It is. In fact, Danny DeVito was in Get Shorty. I think with John Travolta. I think.
Okay. Yes, he was.
Was he?
Yeah.
That was fast. Jay Cutler was on our show earlier. He was at Fox for a couple of days, and then he got hired by the Dolphins, and they're paying him $10 million, and I don't blame him. And I think he's a good fit. He's worked with Adam Gase. It's funny. Jay Cutler's one of those, like if you look at his record, you're like, meh. But he was good when he had Adam Gase, and it should be noted, Chicago has been a completely dysfunctional franchise for 10 years. And Adam Gase last year got Miami to the playoffs. So there's a feeling that if you can get Gase and Cutler again today, down in Miami, it's less dysfunctional than Chicago, which couldn't even get their draft right this year when they butchered it and reached for a quarterback. So here's Jay Cutler on his decision to join the Dolphins.
It had to be a perfect situation, and I think this is one of those situations where everything kind of fell into place, like you're saying, and the timing was right, the personnel was right, the coach was right. I was in a situation in my life that my wife kind of allowed me to leave and do these type of things, so it worked out well.
I actually, when you look at the AFC right now, look at that division. The Jets may be a 2-13 team. Buffalo's Buffalo. Miami's coming off 10-6, and I think Cutler's more talented than Ryan Tannehill. My gut feeling with Jay Cutler to Miami is, they'll be a 9-7, 10-6 team. I really feel that because Cutler knows Adam Gase's. And remember, I don't care about Chicago's record. Chicago's dysfunctional. Outside of Cleveland, the Bears are about the most dysfunctional team in this league. Did you watch their draft this year? I think Jay Cutler's going to win a lot of games in Miami. I actually do. There's a picture of Jay Cutler. I think he's going to go to Miami, and they're going to win 9 or 10 games, and he's going to finish behind Brady. I'm not being overly optimistic. I think he's got a great arm. I think he knows the system. I think he likes Gase. And I think the AFC right now is wide open. Peyton Manning's gone. Big Ben's not the same quarterback. Andrew Luck may not play. We're putting a lot of stock in Marcus Mariota. Phillip Rivers is getting old. The AFC right now, outside of New England, it is up for grabs. It is. You got 4 or 5 really atrocious teams like Jacksonville. You've got teams with older quarterbacks like Kansas City and Alex Smith. He eroded last year. Here's Jay Cutler on reuniting with Adam Gase.
here with Adam and the Dolphins, it's one of those situations where a few of those parameters are kind of taken out because I know Adam, I know how he likes to call games, I know how he likes to operate, and I know the system. I'm sure he's made a few changes since I had him last, but I would think that I'll be able to learn it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think Miami's going to be okay. I think Miami's personnel is pretty good. I think Adam Gase last year was pretty good. I thought he was way too young to be a head coach, and he went and did a good job. And then they got to who did they play in the playoffs? Was it Pittsburgh with Matt Moore? I mean, they went and were semi-competitive against Pittsburgh in the playoffs with Matt Moore, and they played up in cold weather in Pittsburgh. And I mean, I don't know. I think Jay Cutler's going to win in Miami. I think Tony Romo would have won in Miami, but I think maybe Cutler now, because knowing the offense, may win quicker. I think it's very possible. So, I don't know. I mean, that is my I'm releasing my NFL predictions, and I sat and worked on them yesterday, and I was sitting there with Cutler, and I'm like, so you start looking at the AFC. I mean, I like Oakland, but they're a lame duck in that stadium, and they won a lot of close games last year. Andrew Luck, is he going to play? Big Ben last year was not the same quarterback. He complained about his coaching. I mean, I know New England's going to be good. I mean, the Chargers. Oh, wait, they're moving to a new stadium. There's a lot of things in the AFC. We don't know what Andrew Luck's going through. The Chargers, a good roster. They're moving and playing in a new stadium. The Raiders are sort of a lame duck in their stadium. Miami may be a pretty interesting team with Jay Cutler. I mean, whether they're good or not, he's going to make them interesting. He's going to make them interesting. His last year, you've seen the numbers. His last year with Adam Gase, pretty interesting. He put up good numbers. Chicago's a dysfunctional dumpster fire. I'm not going to take the record solely out of that. Speak for yourself later. You can always go to theherdnow.com for more free stuff. It's like fans watch it. So to your point, Cutler's the E. There's no language barrier. There's no audible barrier.
Sure.
Now, what about Colin Kaepernick? There's people that say the word, I guess this is a media buzzword, blackballed.
Right. Like, do you really believe that all the owners have nothing better to do than to get on a conference call with 32 owners and say, let's not hire him? Here's the deal, man. You are always looked at like, we'll put up with whatever noise happens to be around you, regardless of what that noise might be, if we think you're legitimate. Like, if you can play, you're going to get an opportunity to play. If we think that the noise outweighs the value or your ability, then guess what? You're not going to get a job. That's the way the people believe, and certainly the social, what he stands for and the social injustice in this country, there's no question that it exists. And good for him for standing up for it, because guess what? You know, I remember Michael Jordan giving $2 million, and it was nothing more than a 6-second blurb on, on every media outlet there was, and then we moved on. This has created a buzz, and we have talked about it now for what? The better part of a year, right? So,
he's created dialogue. He's created discussion.
Absolutely. And so that has been good for the cause. And I'm 100% for that. And I really like Colin Kaepernick. I like him as a guy. And I've spent time with him. Bottom line is, do I think he can play in a traditional offense? And the answer is no, I don't.
I didn't think Tebow could play in one.
Well, my thing is, like, if you think that the only reason that Colin Kaepernick is being quote unquote blackballed by the NFL because of his social stance, then you happen to also think that Tebow is being blackballed by the NFL because he's a Christian. And I've got a bunch of tinfoil at my house back in Denver, and I'll make a hat for you, because that's not how it works. It's done. If they perceive you to have the requisite skill set to play quarterback in this league, guess what you're going to get an opportunity to do? Play quarterback in a traditional style. That style of offense, listen, RG3 had great success. How come he didn't have a job? RG3 doesn't have a job because that success in that style of offense, where Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan amalgamated two offenses together, this Baylor system along with the West Coast system, and they gave him 8-10 completions a game in the Baylor system. And when people started defending it, guess what? It's like the dodo bird, man. It went extinct. Like, you can't sustain that style of offense and put your quarterback in harm's way, because that quarterback won't survive. And that's where we are right now.
Listen, when you think of when I think of Kaepernick, I think of him running. When I think of Brady, I think of him throwing. When I think of Aaron Rodgers, I think of him throwing. When I think of Camp, I think of him running. Same with Vic and RG3.
Right.
So in the end, that ideology, when I think of Johnny Manziel, I think of him running.
It's unsustainable, Colin.
It's not. And by the way, the NFL always takes chances on things. The wildcat, the run and shoot. But every 8 to 10 years, they go through an ideology change or shift.
Right.
The running quarterback thing, everybody's now like, yeah, you got to go. But even, by the way, Carolina coaches are all over Cam.
Right.
Stop running.
Right. And they were designing 10, 11 plays a game where he'd run the ball. Now they're like, yeah, that's not sustainable. We can't do that. Think of you bring up the Wildcat. Everybody in Denver, we had the wild horses, the Colts, the wild, stallions, and everybody did it. The Falcons, the wild hawks,
for a year and a half,
right? And then guess what? They're like, yeah, this is gimmicky, and it doesn't work, and defenses have figured it out. And listen, every time as a quarterback, every time you do this, you put the ball in the stomach of the running back, and you look at the line of scrimmage, right? You know what you are? You're a runner. You're eligible to be hit. And listen, I'm not trying to be malicious, but if I was a defensive coordinator, defensive player, I don't care if you hand that ball off or not. You're going to get a mouthful of Rydell, and I'm going to try and knock you out of the game.
Of course.
And that's the way this league operates.
That's why LT
and that's
and
why
Ray,
it's unsustainable.
Yes, and again, I'll say it again. The view of Kaepernick now is runner over thrower, and the window to do that, which was about 3 years, is closing. Russell Wilson now, 65% completions. Cam, coaches complaining about it. Kaepernick's got a lot of things that aren't working in his favor. That is one of them. That window, that ideological run window is closing. All right, so Tom Brady comes out and says, I don't really want to talk about concussions. I don't really think it's any of your business. And I got to be honest with you, Mark, I'm okay with him saying that.
Absolutely. I mean, it is none of our business. And whether you have one or not, that's the way it is. And, it's really interesting, this whole concussion talk, because I myself, there wasn't a game that I played in where I didn't either see stars or knock myself unconscious for a second. Every game I ever played in. That's the way it is. And guys are going to protect their careers. Guys are going to protect their careers, and guys are going to go out there and play regardless. This is why I've always been a big proponent. When I hear the NFL talk about safety being the number one priority of its league, of its players, I laugh. I go, because if it truly was, then there would be fully guaranteed contracts. How many times have you seen anybody self-report a concussion and sit out? One time in the history of this league that I can think of, Ben Roethlisberger. Why? Because I call it the 80-20 rule. 80% of the guys make 20% of the money. 20% of the guys make 80% of the money. When you're in that 20%, Ben Roethlisberger, when you're a franchise guy, you can afford to do it. Your job's going to be safe. The rest of us, doesn't work that way. So guys are gonna protect their turf. Nobody wants to get Wally pipped, right?
Right.
Nobody wants to walk out of the game, even if you are concussed, because you know that you're on a week-to-week, year-to-year contract. And so if you truly, as an NFL, want to preach safety, then make every contract fully guaranteed. So if I sign one and I get knocked out in the first week of the season and I need to sit 3 weeks, I know that I'm still going to get paid regardless for the next 3 years, so that you as an organization have got a vested interest in getting me back healthy on the football field, as opposed to, we'll just cut him. $3 million or $4 million for, and I know it's a lot of money and people have a tough time with this, but I could go tip over the owner's couch and $8 million will fall out of the damn thing, right? Oh, I was wondering where I put that.
Right.
It's the way it is. So if you really want to protect our players, if you're really about safety, then guaranteed contracts should be the first thing on the table that you negotiate.
Mark, I said this, Goulet, Christine was here, John, this was my big thing last week. I think football should be played, but for a shorter period. If you had a universal law, which was you can't hit until 15, and then you guaranteed money, meaning players leave by the end of their second contract 29, the window shrinks from now 11 to 34, 15 to 29, and that's 8 years less of hitting. And CTE with increased awareness of equipment, it's not just playing football. Let's just shrink 4 years early brain developing, 4 years later guaranteed. I think players eventually, like in the NBA, Or baseball guys can leave early because they got the money. If you guaranteed...
Jay Cutler really wanted to play football.
And, he came on this show and said it was over. But I heard the story one time. I'm comfortable saying this because I think it's been published, that Troy Aikman had been a broadcaster for 3 full years and was already really good. And he got a call, and Aikman thought about it. Well, Jay Cutler's never done it. And, maybe Jay's sitting there thinking, do I want to do it? Am I going to be good? It's harder than I thought. Oh, my God, there's $10 million. Like I said this Friday on the show. If I was Jay Cutler, I would have taken the job. And he's our partner. He puts us in a little bit of a bind. And I saw people this weekend saying, oh, my God, Jay Cutler's selfish. And I'm like...
he wasn't really getting calls from other teams, and maybe he thought, okay, well, I don't have a job, so I'll take the one with Fox. But now he did get a call, and so he wants to go back to football. But it probably was a tough decision, too, because he's thinking, is that Fox job still going to be available down the road? Can I still do this?
Also, Christine, we put him in a booth with somebody else. It was a 3-man booth.
Right.
So my guess was our executives thought... like this could happen. Like Tony Romo leaves, CBS in big trouble.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. So, okay, now that Jay Cutler has already done this, is Romo going to do it too?
Yeah, because Romo, to me, I would choose number one if I was Miami. Here's what my guess is that CBS is paying Romo a lot of money, and so it's going to have to be like the cowboy job to leave. Like Miami would not be good enough because he doesn't know Adam Gase, he doesn't know the language.
Yeah. He'll wait until if Dak gets hurt. And finally, Chuck Pagano was talking about having Andrew Luck back at practice, not participating, but just on the sidelines, kind of as an extra set of eyes on everything. And reporters were asking him, is this something we should look into? And he said, no, I wouldn't read much into it at all if I was you. So he was kind of insinuating maybe he's not going to be back for quite a while.
My intel, and I've been on this for 2 weeks now, is that they're not concerned long-term, but Chris Ballard, the GM, because he just got that job, he's safe. Like, he's not under the gun. Chris Ballard feels that he would rather not play him and just roll the dice beyond than take any risk.
Yeah, and you and I have agreed on that. If you're not going to win, why not just take your time, let Andrew Luck recover, get 100%, and then play him maybe next year?
Not many of these great franchise quarterbacks fall into your lap. Andrew Luck did. Don't screw it up. Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Don't waste time pricing flights and hotels at the same old sites. Go to upside.com, code HERD. Minimum purchase required. Upside.com, code HERD. He's our friend. He is now a Fox NFL analyst. He has 3 Super Bowl rings, lives in Denver, now more in LA. It's Mark Schlereth. Look at Mark. So we were just talking about Intel.
Yes. Colin, good to be with you, by the way.
Good to be with you, Mark.
Thank you.
So I was at USC practice this weekend, and the Denver Broncos scout was there.
Really?
And he wouldn't give me any intel on what I really cared about. He was talking about college stuff. But somebody I trust told me about 4 days ago that the Broncos quarterback situation is really, really in dire straits, and that Paxton Lynch is not picking stuff up. Right. You have been, I've been told, to Bronco camp every day.
Yes. Yeah.
What's the story?
Well, here's the thing. It's really interesting because the college game, as you know, is so incredibly different. I mean, the field is different. The hash marks are different. And the game is different.
Right.
And so you're looking at young quarterbacks, and you're asking these young quarterbacks who play in a spread system, come on. They look to the sideline, and there's a card. And it's a fire truck and a rooster and, a bus. And you're like, hey, run fire truck, rooster, bus on 2, right? You don't call plays in the huddle. The coaches tell you who to throw it to. You're in this spread up-tempo offense. So the defenses that you face are basically stuck in zone the whole time, and nothing changes. And so they don't have a skill set to get to the next level and produce. And so it's really interesting because you're asking a quarterback like a Paxton Lynch to come in there who's never dropped from underneath center, who's in the shotgun, who all of a sudden has to know route combinations, route progressions. Oh, by the way, I've got to know protections. I've got to identify the mic. I've got to re-identify the mic and change it if I see a blitz coming. I've got to know all these things on the offensive side of the ball. And, oh, by the way, now I got to study the defense too. So while I'm dropping back a 3, a 5, a 7-step drop, I've got to read the defense. Where's the rotations of the safeties? What's the defense? Because you don't throw based on guys who are wide open.
That's college.
Right. You don't throw. It's not an individual thing like I'm a sight thrower. I see that guy open. I'm going to throw it to him. You throw the ball based on the coverage. So you're like, hey, man, first read's covered. I know they're in this coverage, so I know where to go with the football. I know from understanding the concept of coverage, I know who the open guy should be.
So these college guys are overwhelmed.
Completely overwhelmed, especially in these offenses. And the issue that we get into, we start talking about, well, Russell Wilson did it. Well, Russell Wilson played in a pro-style system at Wisconsin.
Yeah, and at Z State. I
right.
think.
And he was a quarterback. He was groomed as a quarterback who happens to be an exceptional athlete. The guy that's ruined it for everybody is Dak Prescott. Because Dak Prescott came in, he has got this old soul, and he just transitioned automatically. Oh, by the way, he's got the best offensive line in football and a great running game. That helps quite a bit.
Okay, let's move to the Jay Cutler signing. It seemed obvious to me. There's a lot of Kaepernick fans, but I said it Friday on the show when Tannehill went down right before our show. I'm like, go call Jay Cutler.
Sure.
Obvious, right?
Totally obvious. I mean, he played for Adam Gase in Chicago, had his best season in Chicago. I mean, he was 3,600 yards. He completed almost 65% of his passes, 21 TDs, eliminated interceptions, only had 11 interceptions, which for Jay Cutler, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
And they spoke the same language. So when you're going out there and you're going, okay, wait a minute. Do I want to hire Colin Kaepernick and take 11 guys who have been going through the preseason OTAs and this preseason football camp
and
that we've been
the whole
and completely
offense.
change the whole offense and the whole language? Or do I want to bring a guy in that speaks my language, who's had success in this offense? I mean, it's an absolute no-brainer.
It's remarkable to me. It really shows how many NFL reporters and football reporters in the country. Like, I quarterbacked in high school. I was awful. But I played the game. So I know that quarterback is a language. The idea that you would bring in Cutler, who can day one speak the language, or you have to go Rosetta Stone on August 7th and bring in a completely different language.
Right. Yeah.
Like, do these guys who cover football, did they play? Football is a language.
Right.
You know the comedy writer Larry David?
Yeah.
So he did Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Right.
So Larry David's a funny guy. And one day we were going to dinner as a bunch of people, and he was in the restaurant. He had listened to the show, and he came over, and he said to me, straight-faced, he goes, I think I could be the Jets' offensive coordinator. And I said, do you speak Italian? Well, I said, you do get that football starts with a language. It would take you 2 years to understand the language of football.
Right.
This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, we are live in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1 on a loaded Monday. Christine Leahy is joining us on Monday. As it feels like football, it sounds like football. We had Hall of Fame stuff. We had Jimmy Jerry. We have Jay Cutler, who used to be our teammate, is now a Miami Dolphin teammate. So it felt like football to me, like a real transition. That's what it felt like to me. So I said this Friday. If I was the Miami Dolphins, I would have called Tony Romo and Jay Cutler, and I would have offered Tony Romo and Jay Cutler my starting job. They are starting quarterbacks. And in this instance, Adam Gase, who's Miami's coach, has worked with Jay Cutler. And in fact, they not only worked together, it was the best year Jay Cutler ever had. And if you've never played football, you may not understand about what I'm going to say, but you ever heard of Rosetta Stone, where you learn a language? You've heard of Rosetta Stone, right? You're going to go to Italy in 2 months, and you buy Rosetta Stone, and you try to learn at least sidewalk Italian so you can say, hi, thank you, please. In the NFL, being a quarterback is learning a language. Every coach has a different language they use for football. They're semi-similar, but not all the same. Adam Gase and Jay Cutler speak the same language. It's plug and play. It's August 7th. He knows the language, can walk in and make stuff happen. Too many of you comparing this and comparing that. I also want to say Adam Gase decided to choose a quarterback who didn't wear a Fidel Castro T-shirt ever. Oh, Colin, that doesn't matter. Oh, really? Remember when Ozzie Guillen was the manager of the Marlins? I'm going to read you an article written by a fine baseball writer. There aren't a lot of rules on what you can and cannot do in Miami, which is why the Marlins have seemed like a perfect spot for Ozzie Guillen. Yet, if there's a line to cross, Guillen will somehow find it. There is one thing you don't say in Miami. It's "I love Fidel Castro." Ozzie Guillen said it and had to apologize. Ozzie Guillen had a job and had to apologize. What do you think it would be like if you didn't have a job and were seeking one in Miami and said it? You're not going to get that job. The national American sports media sort of glossed over this. Ozzie Guillen was at the time a wildly popular manager in Miami. Employed, paid millions. Said, Castro's not the worst thing in the world. Had to apologize to the city. Kaepernick's unemployed. It's a marginal quarterback. Has no relationship with Adam Gase. Cutler does. And he wore a Fidel Castro shirt and spoke highly of him. You don't think it matters a little? You don't think it matters a little that Kaepernick's girlfriend, who is a somewhat public figure, last week called the Baltimore Ravens owner a slave owner? You do realize when you looked at her tweet, she was essentially saying all NFL owners are. Folks, the White House just fired their communications director, meaning like Ozzie Guillen, he had a job and said something, and they fired him embarrassingly quickly. If you don't have a job and are seeking one, you cannot be marginally offensive to somebody who owns a team and can employ you. There's freedom of speech and there's freedom of repercussions. Like the media is just not telling you the truth here. They're saying Kaepernick's completion percentage and Kaepernick what? Cutler has a relationship with Adam Gase. In fact, it was really good. Nobody's insinuating Jay Cutler is Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. I'm not saying Kaepernick's not capable of being a quarterback. But if you don't think the Castro thing in Miami is something, you're not paying attention. And if you don't think his girlfriend taking a shot at the owner, racial overtones is something, you're not being honest. Cutler was the choice, the smart choice, and for Miami and Adam Gase, the only choice, as long as Tony Romo didn't pick up the phone. Jay Cutler is supposed to call us later today. Let me shift gears to Jerry and Jimmy. Jerry Jones, owner of the Cowboys, this weekend inducted into the Hall of Fame. And on the same weekend that LeBron James posted a workout on Instagram and said, "This is the price of being great. They hate you while you're winning, but love it when you break." So let's go back to Jimmy and Jerry, because I think these two have a lot in common. Jimmy and Jerry were amazing. And then Jimmy and Jerry suddenly were not. Egos got involved. And Jerry Jones was funny about it this weekend.
After Jimmy screwed up and we parted ways, I come home, and of course, Jean has been watching the news. After I laid there a minute, she just looks over and said, "You can't stand it, can you? You just absolutely, when it gets going, you just got to get in it and mess it up."
Listen, I'm watching Jimmy and Jerry this weekend, and it was a wonderful thing, and then it ended. And I'm watching this Cleveland situation right now, Kyrie and LeBron, and it's going to end really soon. And why are we surprised? You do get that Jerry and Jimmy ended poorly. And so did Shaq and Kobe, and Favre and the Packers, and Manny and the Red Sox, and Montana and the Niners, and Boston's Big Three, and LeBron and Wade, and Mac Brown in Texas, and Pete Carroll in USC, and Peyton in the Colts, and Woody Hayes in Ohio State. You realize every guy's got a pickup line, but can never figure how to break up. You do realize as a country, we're great at getting into wars, and we can never get out of them. Harbaugh and the 49ers, Phil Jackson and the Lakers, Bobby Knight in Indiana, Charlie Sheen and 2.5 Men. Men, legends, egos. They virtually always end poorly. Because when relationships begin like Bobby Knight in Indiana, like Pete Carroll in USC, like Peyton and the Colts, like Favre and the Packers, like Jimmy and Jerry, like Phil and the Lakers. When those relationships begin, it's all about us. And then they get rich and famous. And then it becomes all about me. And they break up. And it just happens over and over. So enjoy the moment. LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love from day one had chemistry issues. But it was fun, and they got a title. It's the Hollywood marriage syndrome. You get married for us, and you break up eventually because it becomes about me. By the way, Kyrie and LeBron, 3 years, 3 finals, and a title. That's pretty good. If you were a Cleveland sports fan the day LeBron left and went to Miami, if I'd have told you that day he'd come back, you'd go to 3 straight finals and win a title, you'd have signed up for it. All you do when smart, driven men get together, and there are championship possibilities and aspirations, you just hold it together as long as you can. The big 3 in Boston got 1 title. LeBron and Wade got 2. Shaq and Kobe got 3. LeBron and Kyrie got 1. Success. May win 1, may win 2, may win 3. But this is how it ends in Hollywood. And this is how it ends in sports when legends get together. It goes from us to me to over. Kyrie and LeBron's done. May happen at the All-Star break. May happen in December. It'll happen when Cleveland finally gets the offer they want. And Jimmy and Jerry, is it a sad ending? No. It's an inevitable ending. That's the way it works with guys. Success, money, egos, it's over. Good to have you on a Monday. A lot of stuff today. Mark Schlereth will make an appearance on this show. Our new Fox NFL analyst, 3 rings. Great to have him on. Tom Brady won't talk about his concussions or his physical being, and I've got some thoughts on that. I saw something, Christine, this weekend that it was honestly, I don't know. I mean, I've gone to doctors, and I know how I feel sometimes, but I don't know much really about medicine, like at all. I've had a friend who's a doctor. I've had, my wife has had babies, so I've been to hospitals. But I saw something this weekend medically that I just started laughing. And it's not necessarily something that should be laughed at, but it shows you often how confusing, perplexing, and how little we know about our health. And we have talked a lot about football lately and people's health, and Tom Brady doesn't want to talk about it, and that is coming up. So I'm going to give you a stat, and I think it's the most amazing thing I've ever heard. It surprised me. I've been watching this Netflix show called What the Health, and I'm surprised I'm even alive. Seriously, I can't believe I'm alive today after watching the Netflix show called What the Health. There is a study that was done. A woman at Brigham Young University, a doctor, took 148 different studies of more than 300,000 people. This is a massive study. And they determined through a series of studies, 148, that loneliness and social isolation is a greater health problem significantly in the United States, greater than obesity. Now, I want you to think about that. Basically, you could drink Pepsi through an IV. You could deep fry your bacon every morning. But if you play a game of solitaire in your kitchen, it's the guillotine. Think about that. That you could literally go to that restaurant that has the bloomin' onion. What is it, Outback?
Yes.
That is 1,900 calories, 155 grams of fat. Now, Christine, that's an appetizer. That's not the meal. You could eat that on a daily basis and you'd be fine. But if you drove by yourself to Palm Springs, death sentence. That being lonely over time is worse for you significantly than a crappy diet. Now just think about that, right? You never thought that before. I didn't think that before. I don't think people want to be alone, but I can drink Pepsi all day, good. Drive a car by myself around the country, bad. So Tom Brady this weekend said, I don't really want to talk about my concussions. It's like my medical history, and like it happened last year, and it's like private, and I don't think it's any of your business. And I got to be honest, I'm okay with players not discussing medical issues because I don't think they know what the hell they're talking about. I mean, I live in a country now where actors are constantly talking about global warming. Not a meteorologist, not a scientist, a guy who's a pirate or a diamond thief or a captain of a ship, depending on the script he has. And he's lecturing me on global warming. You know, it's really possible that Bill Belichick and his do your job mantra would rather not anybody talk about medical stuff except doctors and trainers. Here's Belichick.
I'm a football coach. I'm not a doctor. The medical staff is the medical staff. I coach the team. Medical people handle the injuries. They don't call plays. I don't do surgery. We have a great deal there. Works out good.
Football players are risk takers. Listen, man, if you get pushed out of a plane, I feel bad. If you jump out of a plane and things don't go right, you knew the risk. Smoking cigarettes, playing football, jumping out of planes. We were talking about this last week. I know football players. They like tackling, even in practice. They complain when they don't tackle. They like hitting people. I heard Andrew Luck say last year, the game hasn't really started until he's gotten popped. So I don't know if I really want football players talking about health, even their own. It's quite possible they don't know what they're talking about, and it's their health, and they know the risks. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
As you mentioned, the Dolphins signed Jay Cutler over the weekend, so that kind of ends the debate about what they would do to replace Ryan Tannehill while he is recovering from his injured knee. Now, some of the other names that they considered are coming out, and Tim Tebow and Kyle Orton are on that list. Colin Kaepernick is 2, for what it's worth. I don't know if that was more of, oh yeah, we considered
Tim Tebow is on that
list. Yeah, Tim Tebow. So if you look at those names, and considering one of them is currently a minor league baseball player, it was clear that Jay Cutler was the right choice.
It seems like to me. And I really do think this is important. I mean, I can't speak for you necessarily, but in my career, if you know somebody someplace, it's usually an advantage. And he literally had Adam Gase as a coach.
Yeah.
And they were not only a coach, they were really good together. So, like, to me, that's just an overwhelming advantage for Jay Cutler.
Absolutely. You always kind of get a better job when you know someone at the organization.
Right.
But taking all those things into consideration, maybe that's why this makes sense. So only 2 projected week 1 starters not operating on rookie deals will make less than Cutler this year. So the Dolphins are getting a huge bargain with how much they're going to pay him, which is $10 million of a base salary plus incentives.
Yeah.
So they still got a bargain for him, even though he was probably the best choice available, which tells me
money guys would, and I don't think it's the worst thing, Mark, because owners would say, hey, my league's cheaper. I don't have to pay a veteran a third contract like Schlereth. I can pay that Colorado State lineman, the rookie. I think the owners don't see it yet, but guaranteed money gets guys out of the league earlier.
Yeah, well, you're probably right. I haven't thought about it, but you're probably right. Here's the other thing, and I believe this. If you play this game, and I don't mean to scare people, but if you play this game at almost any level, and you do enough hitting, you're going to do brain damage.
Yeah.
But what we haven't looked at is lifestyle. We look at CTE after that player is deceased, and we look at that brain and say, yeah, there's brain damage. I guarantee you, anybody who's played the game, myself included, has brain damage. I believe there's enough elasticity and connectivity in your brain to overcome some of those things if your lifestyle is right. But what we don't look at is, hey, man, my identity never came from being a football player. My identity came from being a husband and a father. That's where I get my identity. That's what's important to me. Football's what I did, and I loved it. And it was the lifeblood that coursed through my veins. I loved it, but it wasn't my identity. It's what I did for a living, and I enjoyed the heck out of it, man. And so I think that most guys, or a lot of people, and this is not just football players, this is people in general, man, they identify with what they do for a living. Well, at some point, that's going to come to an end. And when it comes to an end, how do you deal with it? Guys slip into depression. Guys turn to alcohol. Guys turn to drug abuse. Guys, the guys don't have a purpose in their life. They don't have anything to do. And if that's the case, I think that just exacerbates whatever brain damage you have. And I think there's a lot that goes into that we don't study. We just look at brains at the end of people's lives and go, oh, that guy had brain damage. Well, like I said, I think you can overcome those things. And I think you have enough connectivity in your brain to overcome some of the issues that you do to it during playing football. I guarantee you this, man. I have learned more life lessons, and I am a better human being for having played football.
I'm actually a better human being for having been around it. Like this weekend, I was around football all weekend. The relationships I have. I took my stepson to a practice. The time we had together. Like you're either into it or not, and if you're not, it's cool. But if you are, it's awesome.
Dude, I was at the Hall of Fame this week, and we celebrated Terrell Davis, man. It was phenomenal to be back with my teammates and be back with my coaches.
You laughed all weekend long.
It was just great telling stories, and oftentimes the stories come back to, when I got knocked out in that one game, and I mean, they're funny to us, but 99.9% of the guys would do it all over again. The only reason there was a lawsuit is because the NFL lied to its players forever.
Yep.
That's why.
Mark Schlereth, he's now at Fox. Damn glad to have him. It's the Herd. By the way, I don't know if you're like this, but sometimes I won't know what a word means, and so I'll just go Google it and look it up. And I'll have a feeling I know what the word means, but I won't be sure. So if I'm like reading an article and it's in The Economist or The Atlantic or some heady magazine, I'll be like, I'm not exactly sure what that means. And I'll just look it up.
That's why it's really great to have a Kindle and you can press the word and it gives you a definition right there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I should try that. I just figured out Netflix. That sounds like a lot of work for me.
No, you just right on your iPad. You can download it.
So blackballed. So, like, you hear the word blackballed. You're like, whoa. So I just went and looked up because everybody says Kaepernick is blackballed from the league. Okay, so let's just get the definition of the word down. To reject somebody by means of a secret ballot. So the American sports media believes the owners have a secret ballot with Kaepernick. I'm going to go with no on that. And I'm also going to go with no that when Charlie Sheen, 2.5 Men, got into his situation, that Hollywood executives didn't have a secret ballot, and that Keith Olbermann, one of the smartest political pundits in the country this last election, did not get a job, and it was not a secret ballot. Like a lot of times, here's the way the world works. It's very corporate. When I look at the America I live in, we are much more corporate today than 25 years ago. It used to be you could have a local coffee shop next to a local bookstore. And now it's Starbucks next to Pete's, next to Amazon or something. Like the little bookstore is gone. And those neighborhoods don't really exist as much. It's hard to be vibrant. You got a lot of corporatization. And corporations are very fearful of little messes, little things, discomfort. That's why Charlie Sheen, 2.5 Men, despite being able to pull a rating, people just didn't want to get involved in that Charlie Sheen thing. And why Keith Olbermann, a super smart guy and political pundit, been fired several times. We don't want to get involved in the Keith Olbermann thing. And Colin Kaepernick, his girlfriend called NFL owners slave owners. And Kaepernick wore socks where policemen were portrayed as pigs. And he wore a Castro T-shirt, and he took a knee in a stadium, and he once called cops modern-day slave catchers. And you think maybe some owners maybe don't want to get involved in that Kaepernick situation. It's called the corporatization of America. Is that big corporations, and is there a bigger one right now? Facebook, Amazon, the NFL. Kaepernick's got a lot of things working. And I don't think he's a pocket passer anyway. But Like, this is when you use the word blackballed, that's like secret ballot stuff. I don't think you need a secret ballot to know, yeah, in this big corporate world, we're going to stay away from that thing or that situation or that difficulty or that controversy. Like, blackballed is a great buzzword for the media. It's not an illegal conspiracy or an illegal corporation. Collusion is an illegal corporation or conspiracy, especially in order to cheat or deceive others. It's secret. This is not collusion. It is not blackball. Like, you're basically telling me there's a secret ballot among NFL owners? I just don't buy into that. And I'm absolutely sure there's not a secret ballot, because you wouldn't. I tell friends this all the time. Why are you emailing anybody, and why are you texting anybody? Call quickly and hang up. If you have something secret to say, I don't even text it.
Don't you think it's possible, though, that some of the owners are talking, like when they see each other or calling each other and discussing, yeah, it's kind of hard to do this?
Okay, that's a great point. So in Hollywood, during the Charlie Sheen thing, do I believe Les Moonves at CBS had lunch with NBC talent court? Yes, because they talk all the time. And that person goes, oh, sorry about the Charlie Sheen thing. And CBS would go, yeah, you want to take him off our hands? Hey, no thank. Yes, people talk. It's just like on Wall Street. People talk. Now, there's insider trading, which is buy this stock and there's having a 3-martini lunch and going, God, I love this company. It's great. And then you order another martini. You're not going to stop people from talking in the world. And yes, to your point, do I think NFL owners talk? Yeah, they're probably at the same country club.